All right, I think we're live. So welcome everyone to the Matt Maran Motoring live stream here on the Matt Maran Motoring YouTube channel. Hope you're all having a great Memorial Day weekend here. Thanks so much for stopping by. Getting into all the questions here. So I see we have a bunch of people have already joined in. Thanks so much for everyone who has joined in. I know, again, might be some Memorial Day stuff going here, but for anyone who is joining here, we're going to go for about 2 hours or so. Give priority answering to anyone who does a super chat or a super thanks, as well as anyone who's a member there with the green usernames. They always get that priority answering. You can also get that with a link in the description there. And so I see we have, Kevin Lanswath, B. Mitchell, Anthony, Wheatman, Vishal, Danny, Stillabuster, Jazzbo, let me see, that car guy 6, Luke, Raphael, BT, Aurora, and Mr. 705, viewer, and the OK Basis. Thanks so much, everyone. And all right, so let me see. Lanswath says, "Good evening, everyone. My spots this week are an AMG Black AMG GLE 63S Coupe and a second generation Ford Lightning with a custom paint job. Very cool. My funny spot I actually just saw a few hours ago was an Infiniti G37S convertible, which was rare on its own, but it had a Rottweiler in the back seat. They're just driving along on a beautiful spring, night here, and it's kind of funny to see that. But that was my probably the most interesting one for me. And B. Mitchell says, greetings from the upper Midwest. More interesting than me taking my 78 Lincoln Mark V out for the season. The oddball spot of the week was a 1990s Dodge Raider. Very nice. And he says that's a Mitsubishi Montero with an identity crisis. For those who haven't seen one in 3 decades, which is probably most people. No, that's awesome. Let me see. Anthony says, happy Memorial Day weekend as well. And it says a few spots this week: Mitsubishi 3000 GT, nice. McLaren 720S, and an orange Isuzu Amigo. Love that thing. Nice. Those are fun. That's awesome. And good evening to you as well, Wheatman. And Vishal says, what's up, all? Great week of spots for me. New maroon color Z. Interesting. I didn't know they did a maroon. That's cool. Hummer SUT, early 2000s Audi A6, BMW Clown Shoe, Mint Dodge Neon, and a Dodge Shadow. Never seen one in my life till this week. Wow. That's awesome. Yeah, great spots. Danny says, my rare spots were a 2003 supercharged Nissan Frontier and a 9th gen Civic Hybrid. Very nice. Yeah, all kinds of good spots here. Still Buster says his spots were a red Alfa Romeo 4C, Fox Body Mustang Cobra R. Nice. And a Volkswagen Type 2 single cab pickup. Very cool. Everyone's seeing lots of good stuff out here. This is awesome. And Danny says, so 2 days before my road test, I was driving on a 50 mile per hour 2-lane road when a Merc C300 with New York plates pulled out without looking. Due 20, I slammed the brakes and horn. Called him a jackass. Nice. Yeah, it sounds like you're getting well acclimated to the world of driving in America. So, yeah, well, stay vigilant out there and best of luck. And let me see. Danny says, and nearly got rear-ended by a new Gen Silverado because of the MERD. I don't know what MERD is, or unless there's some other word I'm missing. I was in the family Bullet, which is the car I took my test on. The family in the Silverado gave me a thumbs up for my driving. Wow, that's funny. And Luke says, my interesting spots this week were a Kia Borrego V8, a Mitsubishi IMEV, nice, and a group of 3 DeLoreans. Wow, that's cool. And B. Mitchell says, Matt's always at least 4 minutes behind. Yep, it's I just always got to be a few minutes late, I suppose. And Lanswath, thanks so much for gifting 5 memberships here. I really appreciate it. And happy to see a bunch of people that grab those here. And also looks like some new viewers, as well as Mr. 705 who's in here. So that's awesome. We get some people that are able to interact some more here on the live stream. So thanks so much for your generosity, Lanswath. I really appreciate it. I'm sure they all do as well. Let me see. Where were we here? So Raphael says, this week's sighting was a silver 550 Maranello. Nice. And a black Cybertruck. Ew. Right. Now that's a very cool spot with the Maranello. Those are rare. I haven't seen one of those in a while. So that's awesome. Mr. 705 says, my Friday was not the same. I know. I apologize again that it has to, go out like that. But hopefully these live streams help a little bit. I still do keep up with news and all that, so feel free to ask any questions or any other things you guys want to know about the news this past week. Happy to kind of off the cuff kind of discuss for sure. And, always happy to do that here. And like I said last week, we're going to probably do like a Wednesday. I didn't do it this past week because I was in Texas with this Toyota stuff, but probably going to do like a Wednesday, like 1 hour live stream here. Just kind of a midweek kind of thing, because it seemed like people were really interested in that last week. So gonna probably start those up here next week. I probably won't do it the following week because I will be also kind of in the midst of traveling and stuff. But at least this next week, I'll probably try that out, and maybe that'll be something that people can watch on Fridays as well, and maybe discuss news a little bit there. If people want to talk about that, and still gonna again let it be led by the Q&A, but again, be another little stand-in for people that miss the weekly updates a little bit. Let me see. Lancewath says, "Hi, Matt. Hope you and your family have a safe and great and happy Memorial Day. You as well, Lancewath." And let me see. Jazz says, "Great Pittsburgh shirt on it." Yep, got all the Pirates shirts. That's what this one is. So gotta rep Pittsburgh. I do love it here. Let me see. Vishal says, "Enjoyed your Toyota coverage this week. Thank you for watching it." He says, "The thing that irks me is the trend with the lack of hood over gauge clusters now. I can't imagine that would be good for glare." Yeah, it's weird because some companies are still doing that, and then others are just going with no hood. And I mean, I guess it's another cost savings thing, but I just don't know. I think there is also like this design aesthetic that some companies think is better or something. It is kind of confusing, honestly. I don't see the drawback to having a hood aside from I guess the cost savings, but that it gets to a point where people start to push back as far as how far do you go with that stuff. So I don't know if in the RAV4 and others if it is a case of cost cutting or something else, but hopefully that's something that can be easily fixed with a refresh if they do get enough feedback about that, and we'll see. I mean, I again wasn't in it while it was moving, so I have no clue when you're driving if it's bad or not. It might be fine. Some companies do a better execution of that with angling ththings and having displays that are bright enough that it doesn't make too much of a difference for some of them. So we'll just have to see how it plays out, but it is an interesting choice for sure. Let me see. Thank you so much for the first super chat of the night. They say, "Sup, my 25 Mustang GT with active exhaust makes a slight spool up sound when giving it gas. I don't mind it, just don't know if it's a problem or not." I thought we talked about this last week as well. And someone said it was normal, I think I remember. But I'm not sure. I mean, if you're giving it gas, to me, that sounds like it might be an intake thing. Possibly. I don't know if you have an aftermarket intake or because I don't think I remember really my Bullet doing that. It's mostly just aftermarket ones that do that. So if you have an intake, that's the only thing that usually adds that to a naturally aspirated car. Other than that, I'm not sure what else would be doing that. But others are mentioning here, if you okay, he says it's stock. Yeah. I take it to the dealer then if it's something that concerns you. I mean, I'm I'm fairly familiar with like most mechanical problems with S550s and S650 by extension because it's pretty much the same car underneath. And also just general car diagnostic stuff. I feel like I've been around the block enough to know most weird sounds, but I can't recall ever hearing a spooling up sound in a naturally aspirated car without an intake. And I can't imagine what that could be. I mean, maybe a vacuum leak or something if you're experiencing like a rough idle or an issue with the way it's driving. Maybe like a hose being loose or something like that. That's the only other out of left field kind of answer I can give you here, because otherwise I've never come across anyone complaining about that in anything, completely honest. So I'm trying to think, but that's all I got, I think. So hopefully that helps you a little bit. Definitely, yeah, get it checked out by a mechanic. I mean, obviously you're is 25, you got full, warranty on that. So definitely, if it seems a little off, take it into the dealer and make sure that they make it good because that's their job. That's what the warranty is for. So best of luck to you on that. I hope you're still enjoying it though. Otherwise, they're nice as you don't mind it, so that's good at least. But yeah, I don't, man, I have no clue whether that's a problem or not. That's yeah, surprising me. He said, all good. If it gets more, I will take it to the Ford dealer near my home. Thanks. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much again for the super chat. And he says he's going to rent a Mustang from Enterprise and see if it does it as well. Yeah. Or even, I don't know if you go to any kind of car meets or anything like that, or, go to, another Ford dealer and test drive another GT or something and kind of compare notes there. I don't know. But let me see. So viewer says, I've been watching since I was 17 years old. I'm 28 now and still watching. Thank you so much. I got so many comments like that here this past week, and I'm finally just caught up to all the hundreds of comments on the last weekly update there from, a week and a half ago now. And so many comments that like that. It is really crazy. Just the amount of people that, have been watching for a decade or more. And it always blows me away. And it just fills me with so much gratitude for the community we've built up here and just for all the support you guys have given me and the channel and each other as well. I really appreciate all of it. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. Every view helps. Everything, you guys do helps. And so, yeah, thank you so much for that. And that car guy 6 says, as of right now, I'm currently in a theater watching Final Destination, The Final Reckoning. So I'll be back in like 25 to 30 minutes or so, or less. Well, enjoy the movie. Yeah, definitely no need to hang out here. Enjoy it. And hope it is a good one. And let me see. Dylan says, hello, been a couple of weeks since I could watch the live stream, but neat spots over the last few weeks have been an RX-8, nice, and a lifted Audi TT with off-road tires. Wow, that's surprising. I bet that kind of looked interesting, or hopefully it looked well done. That's cool. And Harsha says, I got my graduation stuff recently. I'll be walking through graduation on June 15th. Well, congrats to you on graduating. It's an awesome accomplishment. Best of luck in the future here. I'm not sure, what you got lined up, after graduation here, but best of luck with everything. And hope you have a great first summer here post school. I'm sure it's going to be a great feeling. And Luke says the party yesterday to celebrate the hoarder neighbors being gone was a success. 6 people at my house, and I made a bunch of food. Nice. Well, that's awesome. I'm happy you had a good time there, and best of luck again for a better neighbor in the future when whoever new moves into that place. Let me see. Matthew says his rare spot is a Tiger Eye Pearl Acura Integra Type S. Nice. I have a Performance Red Pearl Type S myself, but cool to see another rare Type S on the road. I bet. Yeah, I actually saw a white one. I don't know, it was yesterday, or actually, yeah, it was yesterday. I saw one, and they look so good still. And Marco says, how's it been, Matt? How's the fam? I've been looking at a few higher mileage German cars with maintenance records, and all are all-wheel drive, which is a need, unfortunately. Nice. Well, yeah, we're all doing well. Thanks for asking, Marco. And as far as higher mileage German cars with maintenance records, and I mean, I would just still say, even with good maintenance records, I would try to get an extended warranty. That's the other thing I'll say, because that kind of stuff can get expensive with labor and parts for those kinds of vehicles. So just, watch out for that. He says 2011 Mercedes E350 wagon with a third row rearward facing seats, which is, that's such a cool thing that they did back then. Those are really fun. 2011 Audi S5 with a V8. Those are amazing. Audi S6 with the glorious V10, but all have 200,000 miles except the S5, but all have service records. Your thoughts? Okay. So I'd be curious how many miles the S5 has, if it's a big difference or not. Obviously they all do very different things and are going to have very different perks. Yeah, so it's really hard to say. I mean, obviously, from a fun to drive standpoint, it's going to be, the S5 or S6. If you need the practicality, E350 wagon can be really cool too. So yeah, it really comes down to exactly what you're looking for. I'm happy to go back and forth here, in the chat here tonight, as well as also if you want to send me the listings after this, through, Facebook messages or email or whatever, I'd be more than happy to look into the listings and check it out as well and see if anything seems iffy to me. Because I did work at an Audi dealership until 2011, so I am a little more familiar with some of the pain points of some of that generation of stuff. I mean, I guess the other quick little things I'll say, electrical gremlins are my main worry about all three of them. Mechanically, they should all be fairly solid from my, limited experience and limited knowledge of them. The V8 and the S5s is pretty good. I think there's a timing chain thing you need to make sure you stay up on with those. But other than that, that V8 seems to be pretty solid. The V10, I mean, it's that Lambo V10, but I've seen them go the distance. I've seen actually, I think one or two others crack 200,000 miles. How much longer beyond that, I don't know. That one scares me a little bit more. The V8 Audi, I think that's a little less exotic. So, and if it's lower miles, I'm kind of, my knee-jerk reaction is to tell you to lean towards the S5. The V10, especially if it's 200,000 miles, that makes me nervous. A Lambo V10 with 200,000 miles, again, I think it is really stout. It might have another 100,000 in it. That also is the other thing, is how long you plan to keep it for, how many miles you plan to drive it. But that makes me a little nervous personally. Again, everyone's risk tolerances are different, and it might be worth it for the bliss of saying you've owned a Lamborghini V10 powered Audi, which is an amazing thing. It just all comes down to your preferences. The E350 is the least exciting one, but again has its own perks as well. But if it were me, again, assuming they're all the same money and assuming there was a significant mileage difference for the S5, I'd probably go S5. And they also look great still. They sound great. And just, it's a really solid vehicle as well, I think, in a lot of ways. So that's probably the one I'd pick. Hopefully it helps you a little bit. Again, feel free to send me more messages or more comments here. I'm more than happy to drill down with you there on that a little bit more. But best of luck deciding, because it's 3 fun choices. And Linda, also thanks for stopping by. And so let me see here. Viewer says, shopping for a manual Mustang GT currently, either 2020 to 2023 or find a good used 2024 GT. Any opinions? I mean, that's another one where it comes down to how you feel about those screens on the inside. Personally, I'd rather have the S550 over S650 because I do not like that new interior. I think the value is slightly better for 2020 to 2023 as well. So I'd go with an S550 personally. And as far as which ones you go for, I mean, obviously there's a bunch of great ones to choose from there. Even just regular GTs are great, but the more collectible ones do seem to hold their value a little bit better. So that comes down to, again, if you're after a more special experience, or whether you're willing to pay a little bit more up front but have a car that'll maybe depreciate a little less. There's all those other options way, as far as like whether you go for Mach 1 or you just go for a regular GT or whatever. Same thing goes for like performance package cars are a little more desirable, things like that. There's a whole bunch of various things there. I'd go for S550 because I mean, I don't know if S650s have come down much. But to me, it's just, there's not enough there to warrant the upgrade from an S550 and the price hike that comes along with it. That car guy said it meant Mission Impossible, Final Reckoning. What did I just say? I think he said Final Destination. But yeah, okay. Well, yeah, I hope it was good. I've been meaning to watch the Mission Impossible movies. I've never seen them, but I want to someday. Marco says, I've also been looking at a short-term lease with Kia. Here in Nebraska, they do great deals, and I'm thinking about that in case I can't find a good used car. Yeah, I mean, it also comes down to what the deals are in your area and all that for sure. And if you have some really good deals and there's some stuff that Kia has that you're really into, by all means, it could be great. And with that, you don't have to worry about obviously maintenance and all that kind of stuff. I mean, oil changes and stuff you got to pay for, but you don't have to worry about not having a warranty like you do with all the old German stuff there. But yeah, it's Kia usually does some pretty good leases I've seen. Let me see here. Raphael says, I really need to see Lexus ES in person. It's not at all winning me over in videos. Yeah. I was actually talking to a few other people this week about the Lexus design language and the ES and others. Um, and I think the thing is, I was actually telling someone another reviewer here this week how like everyone hated the spindle grill when it first came out 10 years ago or so. That I remember, that first gen of the newer gen of the IS, the first one that had the spindle grill, how that looked so hideous to me. And I was like, who in their right mind thought this was like the way to go? And like, why are people buying this? But Lexus sales have not been hurt by their styling. And I think, you know, there's two ways you could look at this. They could kind of carve out a niche for themselves by being more conservative, like they used to be in the past, and kind of be an alternative to the wilder BMW styling and others. Or they could see that, hey, BMW sales aren't being hurt by their hideous designs. Maybe we can, take some more chances here as well, and will continue to not hurt us as well. And so I think they've probably chosen that. I mean, I think the ES is fine, honestly. I don't know if I'm just numb to their designs. I mean, it's no Mazda, or it's nothing, super elegant and classy as far as the design. Like, will it age well? I don't know, but I think the back end is fine. It's pretty conservative, I'd say, as far as that goes. Sides mostly fine too, aside from like the hockey stick kind of thing going on there on the doors. But the front's okay. I mean, I think the thing that'll impress people, you might not like be won over by the styling, but you're just gonna be so impressed by just how huge it is. I mean, it is so much longer, and the back seat's enormous. I think for a lot of people, it's just going to win them over as far as like, I get a lot of car for my money, and I am in something that feels spacious and roomy and grand. And it's kind of cool because this is really like the first global sedan like this. Usually we get these long wheelbase things for China with an enormous back seat, and only China gets it because only they care about these giant back seats apparently. And so for Lexus to be like, it's designed for China. It was real, Shanghai, but also everyone else was getting it. It's really cool. And I think that they may draw in some people that say, okay, I want S-Class space, but I don't need to have an S-Class. And they see the ES, and it's, a fraction of the price of an S-Class or something, but you're getting that kind of space. Honestly, maybe even more space than an S-Class, at least, regular wheelbase. I mean, it's a lot of space. So, I think that's kind of going to be the big value, is just, the stuff per dollar is going to be probably really good. I mean, we don't know pricing yet, but, the rumors, I think we're saying like 48 to 60 or something like that, at least for the cheap, maybe hybrid or something. I don't know. But like, it's going to be, I think, just impressing people again with the grandeur of it. And so we'll see how it sells here. We got a while to wait. It's not going to be till 2026. So, but yeah, hopefully you guys get to see some on the auto show circuit here in the next year or something, and see what you guys think about it as well. And let me see. Truck Car Guy, thanks for stopping by. And Dom says, hey, Matt, my spot of the week was a Ghostbusters minivan and a bumper sticker that said, I bought my Tesla before I knew Elon was crazy. I'm sending the pics on Messenger. Nice. I've been seeing a lot of those popping up. I've been seeing anti-Elon fan club stickers. Stickers are like, love the car, hate the guy that runs it, or, something like that. I think some people probably actually believe those stickers, and there's also people that are just putting them on there because they don't want people to vandalize their car. So, who knows how, a lot of these Tesla owners really think. But it's very interesting, the whole Tesla thing. I mean, it seems like it's kind of cooled off now, but we'll see if Elon truly stays away or not. It sounds like he's taking a step back, and maybe that'll be for good, because I think again, he said, I think just this past week, he said he's planning on running Tesla for at least another 5 years, as long as he stays alive or something like that. He said, so we'll see what happens. But I think we'll just, it's in his hands, and he's got to decide how he wants to go about it, and whether he wants to drive people away or, stay quiet and just try to focus back on the product and not on himself. But let me see. Oh, Notorious. Sorry, I missed your super chat here. Thank you so much for the super chat. He says, brand new to the channel. What's it about? Well, thanks for stopping by again, Notorious. And yeah, I appreciate all the support. And let me see. Harsha says, now that we know the new RAV4 is out, we can expect a new Corolla in 2027. Camry came out in 2025, RAV4 for 2026, and Corolla for 27. Similar to the last gen vehicles, the last Camry came out in 2019. Yeah, I'd say Corolla is certainly, again, up for, being the next thing, to come out. And yeah, I'm hoping that, again, Corolla is more so a heavy refresh, kind of similar to what we saw with Camry, so that the engines still fit and it's very easy to keep the GR stuff going, which is selfishly I don't want them to change too much on Corolla. If they do this, multi powertrain stuff where we end up having an EV version or they do some kind of other thing with it, then I'm nervous it's gonna lose the GR stuff, which I don't want. So that's I mean, I don't it's such a world car and it's so affordable. Like, I'm pretty sure they're going to keep it, gas, and especially the way Toyota is, I mean, we'll probably see, obviously hybrid will continue. We may even see a plug-in hybrid. I think that's a pretty decent bet for the new, Corolla. But, beyond that, I'm hoping they also still continue on with the GR stuff too. And I think we can probably expect that, I'm sure, because it seems like, again, that's something they're not planning on walking away from anytime soon. And let me see. Vishal says the CHR looks pretty sleek. Wish there was a hybrid version of it available. Not gonna lie. Yeah. I mean, and we'll see what ends up happening down the road with this stuff, because this is. I think I kind of talked about this a little bit last week as well, so I won't repeat myself too much. But this is a good example of how product cycles lag current events. These things were developed and put in motion 3 years ago, whenever everyone said Toyota wasn't doing enough EVs and they weren't, expanding fast enough. And they took that, and they saw how everything was super red hot. And, 3 years ago, like, oh, I got to hurry up and get all this electric stuff out. Like, all right, we'll do 3 of them. And they're like, all right, this is going to be great. And everyone's doing high fives back in 2022. And now here we have them coming out. And, it's just, you can't time these things, and unfortunately, now they're coming out in a time where they're facing headwinds. They're facing, less incentives, less incentives as far as purchasing, less incentives as far as, where they're built and all this stuff. And it's just, not honestly, it's just not a great time for these things. And so, now this year, the trend is, hey, let's hybridize everything. And thankfully, Toyota's got a lot of that already. But for these other ones, since it is ETNGA, that means that, it does share some similarities with regular TNGA. So, you can make the guess that there's probably going to be, oh man, there's a firework that just went off right outside the window there. There's a different angle, so you might not have seen it all, but so we got a little impromptu fireworks show going on here. All right. Well, I hope you guys don't mind some fireworks in the background. Anyway, happy Memorial Day. So there's the assumption you could add in some gas powered stuff later on, but then is that going to be too late? Because 2025, they're hearing, we got to hurry up and add a hybrid everything. Everyone wants hybrid, they don't want EV anymore. So then if you try and chase the trend again, you make these decisions in 2025, you're not going to see this stuff until 2029. Trump won't be around. Who knows who's going to be president? That's a gamble again. If you go and have a bunch of hybrids launching whenever everyone's then saying, hey, we need to go back to Biden's plan of EVs, and ramping this up more aggressively. We reinstate California's, gas ban in 2035 for new stuff. Then it's like, okay, well, now you're launching a hybrid at the end of the decade and you got 5 years of life in it, maybe, before it's not even allowed to be sold, or, these kinds of things. So it's very tricky to time this stuff. So I think, like, honestly, again, most people agree EV is still the direction everything's going. So even if Toyota is doing this a little too early now, it's probably not, it's going to bite them in the butt less to keep the EV thing going than it would to, try and ditch this and hurry up and put gas engines in a bunch of stuff. I think that's what I would bet they would do is they just gonna stay the course on the EV thing because they have so many hybrids still. And again, if you like CHR, there are sporty RAV4s that are hybrid. There's all these other things to pick from. So I'm guessing that would be the way they'll play it, but I have no clue, no inside info there. But I mean, maybe that's something they could change quickly, though. I don't know if they can, just hurry up and shove in a hybrid engine in a year or two. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I think Europe has a CHR Plus, which is they have like a gas CHR in Europe still. It never went away. There was a second generation we never got here. So there's a chance that maybe, that's something that, they could bring over here or something. I don't know, as an answer to, electric one. I don't know. We'll see. But it's all very interesting. And yeah, it was really cool seeing, all the stuff that came out this week here. There's some pretty big fireworks for a little backyard thing. Anyway, viewer, thank you so much for a very generous super chat. I really appreciate that. They said, I was shopping for a performance pack GT with nav 2020 to 2023. My budget was $36,000 to $40,000. I can find a 2024 GT base with active valve exhaust for 40 to 43 with 1,800 to 9,000 miles. You think paying 47 for a Mach 1 is good? It just comes down to, again, do you want a collectible or not? Do you want I apologize again, man. There's it's going to come down to preferences at the end of the day for that. That's interesting though about pricing around you that budget's 36 to 40. And I mean, I think performance pack is a really nice improvement. Again, I don't know how you're going to use it. If you're going to use it just to cruise, you want a comfy cruiser, then a GT base, if you like the 2024 stuff, that might be the better buy for you. But if you, are enjoying, tearing it up on a back road, you want to have this different suspension, you want to have, a sportier setup there with a performance pack, I think that could be, again, a great choice there as well. So, and no wrong answers. Again, it's all personal preference. But, if a Mach 1's 47, yeah, like to me, that's not going to depreciate as much. I mean, I saw this with the Bullet. I paid 51 for the Bullet. And I mean, again, we had the wonky, car market and stuff, but I sold it just last year. So not like in the height of COVID or anything. Cause at one point it was worth 50 grand still, like in 2021 or 2022, because it rebounded. But I mean, I ended up selling that for, I think it was around 43 and change. So I didn't lose much money on the Bullet. And if I had a regular 2019 GT, would it have been going for low 40s? Probably not. So again, it just comes down to how much you plan on flipping and how long you plan to keep it for and all that. But I think the special edition ones, do hold their value better and are better investments if that is something you're considering or worried about. But if you're going to drive the wheels off of it anyway, and you don't care about that, then I think it's still, good to go for either one of those. Let me know if you have any other follow-up questions or anything. I'll definitely keep an eye out. But thank you so much again for the very generous super chat. The Notorious, thank you so much for a super chat as well. They say, haven't watched your HOT of the Lexus RZ yet. Is the hands-on hands-on tour? Gotcha. Is the hands-on format easier to do? Yes, those videos probably take me like a half an hour to edit tops. I mean, so much easier. I love that. This is what drives that format, missing the acceleration vibes already. So because none of those things were able to drive. So that's kind of just like my go-to auto show kind of way of covering vehicles, because I don't have the luxury of having a shooter to film me and follow me around while I'm pointing at stuff and doing all the, cool camera work. Like, that's just, I've always been a one-man crew, so I got to do it on my own. So, for me, it's always like, well, if I'm going to do it on my own, then I might as well just do a POV kind of thing. But instead of doing POV, just, wearing a GoPro on my head, like doing the DSLR and having some nicer shots, at least in my opinion, and just kind of doing it that way. It's just, to me, the best way to do it with what I have to work with. But yeah, so much easier. And someone actually suggested in the past few days here, maybe it was on one of those videos, like that I should do that for reviews. And I mean, that's something I've considered. I kind of played around with that. If you watched my Hyundai Santa Fe review, the first Hyundai Santa Fe review I did, I think it was about a year or so ago. And that video didn't do very well, but Hyundais often don't do very well on my channel anyway. So I don't know how much of that was the new style and how much of that was actually just the Santa Fe and people seeing Hyundai with my name attached and being like, pass. But I think that's something I want to try some more, because if I can cut down the B-roll, I mean, because that's the thing, is it takes me an hour just in a parking lot filming the exterior B-roll, the interior B-roll, and then, doing my commentary versus, if I just, turn the camera on, walk you around it and just talk, one take through the whole thing, that's 2 minutes. And then I walk you through the interior. That's another 10 minutes and I'm done, I mean, and then I get editing it is literally just dropping it in the timeline and, maybe cutting out a few ums and and, basic little things like that, but otherwise a lot easier. And that's something I may, try and do a little more in the future there. But yeah, curious what you guys think about, how those are done. And if because I mean, it seems like a lot of people do kind of just do that thing now. I mean, I even see like, Sophie on Redline Reviews, that's kind of the way he does stuff, especially whenever he's on his own with some of the reviews when he's filming them himself, is he just, has his iPhone there and he's just, showing stuff and talks about it, and, a lot simpler setup. So that might be something I try and slowly work towards, is just eliminating a lot of the B-roll there. And he says, gotcha. I thought it was some kind of response to the general YouTube situation. No, I mean, that is another, I'm not sure if this is what you're referring to or not, but that is also the growing trend, is that polish is bad. A lot of people find it unrelatable on YouTube, and they want a more rough and dirty kind of approach to video production, because that, again, just makes it feel like it's more casual. And I think I've always been very casual with my reviews, so I think I'm hopefully kind of future-proofed for that already. But, as far as, not doing so much B-roll, I think, that could be something. If people don't like it, or they don't care, then yeah, I could definitely cut down a lot of work, just, doing that all a whole lot less polished. And so we'll see, how that evolves. But I think that is something I'm going to try and play around with. Maybe it'll be a low risk review where I think it's going to bomb anyway. And I'll just do it on that and see what the reactions are, and kind of go from there. But yeah, I appreciate all the feedback on that. Let me know if you have any more. Always curious to hear what you guys think about all that stuff. And let me see here. So where were we here? SM says, any specific reason causing you not to review the 2022 to 2025 Nissan Pathfinder or the Infiniti QX60? Not really. So there was a very narrow window where I could have gotten either of those in the press fleet. I have since asked for those and haven't gotten them. I'm open to reviewing them. I think my holdup with the Pathfinder initially, I think I turned it down once early on. And that was just because the last gen Pathfinder got 0 views for me. And at that point, a lot of my Nissan videos just were not getting views. And I was just like, this is already probably not best in class. And it's just going to be something that's, I should drive just so that I've driven everything when I'm doing comparisons. But as far as just the views, it was just something I just didn't think was going to get a lot of views. And same thing with the Infiniti QX60. Especially in the case of the QX60, it's just, unfortunately, I mean, I just did a video. I'm trying to think. Oh, I have a Lincoln Aviator video that'll be coming out here next month. And again, I'm not going to spoil the video or anything, but there's, obviously I do my competitor comparison at the end of the video, and QX60 is a competitor to that. And QX60 is just not competitive. I mean, it's the slowest in the segment. It's basically the only one that uses a Turbo 4. Not the only one. TX does as well, but it's the least amount of power in the segment. It's one of the smaller third rows. There's just not a lot going for it. I'm sure maybe at the dealer, if you get huge discounts, that changes everything. But MSRP is also just not great. It's not priced, super competitively. It doesn't look like the sticker price is this giant savings compared to anybody else. So there's some of those types of things as well. if it's gonna get views, like I'll happily rag on it and like it's whatever. But like if it's something I don't think is super competitive, and I think people are probably skipping over that car when they're cross shopping anyway, again, it's another thing where I'm not, super inclined to review it, especially new. Now, used Nissans and especially used Infinitis have always been fantastic for me. So QX60 is a vehicle like I would review an older QX60 now because it seems like a lot of people like watching me review older Infinitis. So like I would do an old one of those, but the new one just right now, if I'm talking new versus new and everything, it's just not competitive, unfortunately. So that's kind of the hold up there as well. I still may review them at some point if I need to, fill a gap in a press car schedule or something, and it's available. I still could take both of those. But yeah, I mean, Pathfinder is more competitive than the QX60 to me, but the QX60 is just unfortunately just doesn't seem super competitive to me. So that's really the main reason why for those. And I see why each says he's a Ford boy now after the Mustang. I'm glad you're enjoying it. And Fuchs says, I think I saw an Evo 4 earlier today. First time seeing one, so I'm not even 100%. Wow. That's pretty wild. Yeah, because I don't even remember when Evo 4 came out, because I think, was that one in Gran Turismo 2, which would make it like late 90s and therefore eligible to import now? I think, yeah, because I thought I've seen one either at a car show, or maybe it was at SEMA or something. That's a really cool if you saw that. I've never seen one out in the road. That's awesome. I'd be really excited if I saw one of those. Very nice spot, Fook. And Luke says, your weekly updates are similar to some car models. They don't sell, but once they're discontinued, everyone comes out of the woodwork. Yeah, I think there was some of that. And I appreciate the honesty. Some people even comment. There's a lot of people that are even like, I don't watch these as much anymore. It's like, well, this is why it's going away. People are like, yeah, I just watch Doug's podcast now. Sorry, like stuff like that. It's like, you're making my point for me here. But yeah, it's there's so much support. I'm so appreciative of those who have watched every single one and didn't miss them, and always supported them. It really again, that was the overwhelming majority was so supportive, so nice, and just again made me just feel so grateful. And okay, Basis, thank you so much for gifting 5 memberships. I really appreciate that. And happy to see a bunch of people able to get those. Unfortunately, still no luck here for Danny, who's been hoping for YouTube's algorithm to give him a membership here at some point. And no luck for him, but so happy that I got some other, I think, familiar names there and some new ones as well. So thank you so much, OK Bassist. I really appreciate the generosity. And viewer, thank you so much for a super chat. He's a Super Ducks fan. Yep. And it's so funny how so many people, really do go back to the Super Ducks fan days. And that also blows me away. It was so funny. Even at the airport, I was leaving Texas on Thursday, and I was at the Dallas-Fort Worth airport, just going through, the security line, and the guy, looks up at me, and I'm just figuring it's normal TSA agent. They want to make sure that my face is the same as my ID and all that. He looks up at me and like gives me a look, and he's like, "You're on YouTube, aren't you?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Super X fan." It's like, all right. So it's so funny how, yeah, it's so many people really do remember that, and it's really, really fun. I wish I could have kept that channel username going, because I know, again, so many people that's like always going to be what it'll be, but just it was so limiting. The second I changed the name is whenever everything opened up as far as all the press trips and stuff. Anyway, thank you so much, dear, for the super chat there. And sorry, I just left. I saw Marcus said, "Damn Doug" in his podcast. Yep, it definitely did kind of put me out of business here a little bit. I mean, it's competition. It's a free market. That's on me for not being more competitive, and and it is what it is. But yeah, I think once his podcast came onto the scene here, I immediately saw a hit in views for sure. But anyway, that's life. So let me see here. Where were we? So Dom says, I don't remember how I even discovered your channel, but you had just bought your BRZ. Don't remember the year. Yeah, so that was 2012. I bought that. Yeah, first model year is 2013. for those. And yeah, I think a lot of people really found me back then, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. Good times, and yeah, it's good stuff. Anyway, let me see here. Doug B says, "Hey Matt, my response was a Ram SRT 10. Very nice, very cool. Yeah, those are really, I think, getting pretty rare these days. That's an impressive spot." Um, and Anthony says, "Has anyone ever driven the Tail of the Dragon in Tennessee? It's an 11-mile drive that's supposed to be truly amazing. Buddy of mine and I might be making the 14-hour drive this summer to go and do it." Nice. I've always wanted to do Tail of the Dragon. I have not done it. Most of my friends have, and highly recommend it, it seems. There is the one little bit of tidbit of info I can give you is that it's, especially in the summertime, like super crowded, and it's also still a regular road. So you'll sometimes have, trucks and stuff that are slowing it down and everything. And also everyone kind of knows, like cops know that, people treat it like a racetrack sometimes. So it's great to do Tail of the Dragon. Make sure you do a lot of research about all the other awesome roads around there. I've heard the growing consensus is you even have more fun on the other roads than you do on the actual Tail of the Dragon. I think there's one called the Back of the Dragon, I think is what it's called, where that's, a little bit more, again, freer flowing, less traffic, and also really, really fun. And anywhere, yeah, places like that, you get lost in the mountains, you have endless roads, so just make sure that it's not just like, okay, we did Tail of the Dragon, all your expectations are, loaded onto that, and then, make sure you explore is the bottom line, because there's a lot of other good stuff around there, I've heard. Never driven it myself. I'm hoping some of you have driven and you can give them some good feedback there as well. But yeah, Tail of the Dragon seems really cool. And Trent Car Guy says, "Saw a nice Tri-5 Chevy earlier. Very nice." And King Cobra says, "Best PHEV SUV." That comes down entirely to what you consider best. Best range, best power, best value. There's different bests, for all that. So best questions always are impossible to answer well, unfortunately. So I can tell you my favorite PHEV in the compact SUV segment, which is the most common selling segment, is the RAV4 Prime. That is still, my favorite in that segment. But I also really like Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in hybrid. Now, if you're going up to the larger, vehicles or smaller vehicles, let me know. But that's, those I think are my favorites as far as the bigger seller segments go. And Vishal says, "I saw on Reddit someone has a 2019 Jetta with 350,000 miles, proof that with proper maintenance, German cars can go the distance, even if it may be a bit more expensive to maintain than the Toyota." Absolutely. I think most modern cars, have that potential. If, again, it's all about, maintaining them. And age also does play a factor. That is the one thing, you see with a lot of these vehicles where they are newer and they're, being used as courier vehicles or, Ubers and things like that, where they rack up a ton of miles in a very short period of time. And that's going to give you less issues typically, just because a lot of these things that cause problems are wear items, not just wear from driving, but just age, rubber things that age out, and, they might be totally happy if they're moving and lubricated, but when they're sitting or, whenever they just age gets to them, those are the types of things that potentially can cause problems. But yeah, I mean, we've seen so many million mile stories, whether we're talking Hyundai Elantras that are doing millions of miles, Toyota Tundras, I think there's even some Teslas that have cracked it. I mean, there's a lot of vehicles that'll do millions, a million miles or more. That's, all cars have gotten so reliable, and it's a far cry from the crappy reliability we had, even just 20 years ago with many of these vehicles. So yeah, absolutely. Jettas are solid. I mean, honestly, look at old Jettas too. A lot of old Jettas did huge miles on them, maybe not 350, but I mean 200 plus easy, in a time when, again, that was still a major achievement and still is even to this day, I'd say. But Volkswagen always made some pretty good stuff. I think, they've had, some duds and some years when things weren't quite as good, but I think overall, Volkswagen's obviously, I mean, look at all the Beetles that have, gone a million miles and all that. I mean, there's so much of that, so Volkswagen, used to make some really solid stuff, and I think they still do. Your Jetta's a case in point there. And let me see. Raphael, thank you so much for a super chat. He says the local liquor store had Buffalo Trace bourbon yesterday, which is hard to find, so I bought a case to put away. Nice. Well, enjoy it in good health and moderation. And yeah, congrats on the find. And thank you again for the super chat there. And let me see. Where were we here? So Tony Bennett says we have a Sorrento PHEV and we love it. We've had it for over 3 years and no issues. We get like 34 miles electric and 35-ish MPG hybrid, not sporty, but can pass cars easily. Yeah, the Sorrento PHEV is great. And one of the rare things in that segment of actual 3-row plug-in hybrids, it's really, really good. And so yeah, I'm glad you're enjoying yours, and thanks for the feedback there, Tony. Hopefully that's helpful for King Cobra there. And Marco says, yeah, the S5 with the V8 also comes with a manual and it's 100,000 miles. I like that one the most. They want 10K for it, and I think I can get it for 9. I've been told about the timing chain issue. Okay, then yeah, you're good to go, I think. He says I would have to take a look at it and go through the service records and get a pre-purchase inspection on it as well before I pull the trigger. It's pay to play with the German engineering, right? Absolutely, but I mean that's a lot less miles. Talking 100 versus 200. Yeah, I think the S5 is the way to go. If you want one of those older German vehicles, that's probably, I'd say, the safest bet of the 3, in my opinion. And you see here, Luke says, I've been thinking Honda HRV should get the hybrid as an up-level motor, but should the Acura ADX get it as well, or will it make the two vehicles too similar? No, I think they totally could, because I mean, you look at Civic. Civic has hybrid, and that does more power, or basically the same power, more torque than Integra, and that doesn't seem to upset Acura management too much. So I think absolutely we could see. I think it's almost a foregone conclusion. If HRV doesn't get a hybrid, like there's something wrong with Honda. Like there's absolutely no reason. It should have it already, but definitely we saw it last year for Civic. I'm assuming it's coming this year. I have no clue, but that to me just makes way too much sense to not. To do it. I mean, I don't know. We'll see what happens, because again, Honda doesn't always follow logic, but if they did, absolutely. And ADX should get it as well, but I think for HRV for sure at first, that makes the most sense, because we don't see a hybrid Integra yet. Maybe we will see that this year too. I don't know. That's another one that I don't know what they're waiting for, but I think all that stuff's going to get hybridized here pretty quickly. And Harsh says, if someone's looking at a base model German car, should they be looking at a high-end mainstream car? German cars are only good at the higher end. So, I mean, yeah, German cars, I mean, to me, there's appealing stuff in all areas. Again, I think Volkswagen makes some really fun stuff that's not high-end. The high-end stuff's very impressive as well. But, they also have some downfalls too, like the A4s, that 4-cylinder from like the 2009 to 2014 or something. That 4-cylinder is terrible. I mean, so many issues with oil stuff. And I've just personally encountered so many anecdotal stories of like horror stories with that A4, where like you're better off going for a Golf because it's actually more reliable than the A4. And so there's some of those other kind of things, just you really got to know exactly what model and what you're getting yourself into. And B. Mitchell says Lexus spindle grill equals grandma's hairnet. Glad Lexus is going away from it. Yeah, so I mean, see, some people never did warm up to that grill. I think personally it doesn't bother me much anymore, but whenever it first came out, yeah, I just remember, like, man, that combined with the little tiny headlights it had, just that IS is just not a good look still, in my opinion. And then B. Mitchell said, as the owner of that Lincoln Continental Mark V, I'll be the judge on what's huge. Yeah, that's true. It's probably not as long as your Continental, but ES is very long for sure. Raphael says, it's Lexus, so I'm willing to give the benefit of the doubt and check it out rather than just see videos and not like it. Yeah, definitely worth checking out for sure. Michelle says, I saw an MDX Sport Hybrid yesterday. I find it crazy that Acura don't offer any hybrids in 2025. Yeah, it is really weird, especially again because they have so many parts in the parts bin just sitting there. But yeah, I don't know. Let me see. And Harsha says there a VQ and a rev banging in front of your house, right? Yeah, in regards to that fireworks earlier. Pretty close. And Raphael says definitely get the Mach 1. Yeah, so we can live through you. I want one. Nice. Yeah, that too. Yeah, it's Mach 1 is a fantastic car. And let me see here. Yeah, Notorious says, yeah, forest car reviews are 60 seconds or less and seem popular. Yeah, and that's something that, I definitely blame myself for not jumping onto the shorts trend and the, TikTok trend and stuff, because it has been very, very popular and been great for, boosting some of these channels. It just doesn't really pay much. TikTok is now finally paying somewhat. It's still not enough considering how many views these things get and how much they get paid for those views. Because I've talked to, a lot of these people that do TikTok and kind of, got an idea of how much money they're making off of it. But, for me, the other holdup I always have with short form stuff that I still have is it's informative. It's showing people stuff about a car and showing them a car that maybe they haven't seen, these details of before. But to me, you can't do a good comprehensive review in 60 seconds. I can't tell you if it's a good value properly with giving you the right context of comparing it to its competitors, of, saying it has this size screen and this seat and this, that, and this, that, but is that better or worse? A 60-second review isn't a review, it's a commercial. Because you can't give any criticism, because criticism needs to be supported and you need to have reasons for why this sucks or this is great. And if you're just saying, look, this is this, and just spouting a brochure, that's great. And again, that's informative, but it's not a review to me. And if you are doing a review, then you're not getting enough depth, in my opinion. And for some people, maybe 60 seconds is all it takes. And if they're spending $50,000 on a car, a 60-second video is enough for them to make up their mind. I don't know. But for me, I want it to be very in-depth. And maybe that's just my personality, but I want to give you all the info. I want to give you the pros, the cons, everything I can throw at it. I want to put in the video so that it is the best possible advice and, gives you the best information possible. That's just, I can't contain that in 60 seconds or even a minute or two. And I think that was always my holdup, is doing short form wouldn't have been reviews anymore. It would have been commercials. That's fine. And again, it's great for those who've, carved out a nice little niche for themselves with that. But just, it's something I wasn't as passionate about. And, I'm still trying to find ways to do short form in a way that, is educational, but also does have some kind of criticism in it. Because you don't really see much of that at all, really. Unless it's some glaring thing or it's a roast or something. Otherwise, there's just it's all just screen, bye. And that's about it, which is, again, fine, no shade, but just not me personally. But it is, something I screwed up. I should have definitely jumped on that bandwagon sooner. And Wheatman, thank you so much for a super chat, or for gifting 5 memberships there. Thank you so much for that. He says, yeah, I think we see 3 familiar faces and 2 new names there. So thank you so much for that. And hopefully maybe even some people that are able to join in here and hang out. See, Adam. Okay. Thanks, Adam, for the comment there. So someone able to chime in here as well. And yeah, so happy that we're able to get some more memberships, some more people tonight. So thank you so much, Waitman, for that. And let me see here. So where were we here? Apologies for, for the little tangent there. Maybe he says QX60 is flying off shelves. Okay, well, maybe they are discounting them very nicely then. So yeah, I mean, I actually asked for one last year and they didn't have one to send me. They just did this little refresh here, so I'm guessing I don't know when that goes on sale. I'm guessing later this year. So maybe in the fall or winter, maybe I'll get around to doing a QX60. And yeah, just see how it stacks up for me. TFI says +1 for the used Infinities. The 21 to 24 QX80 has the updated interior and they're tanking in value. Reliable V8 Japanese luxury truck without the Toyota tax. Yeah. Did I can't remember. I think I did a 21 to 24. I can't remember. I know I did the Armada of that 21 to 24 generation, but I don't know about the QX80. I think I did. Anyway, yeah. Yeah, Infinities do tank in value. That's why, and they're very popular for the used stuff. So definitely keep doing used Infinities for sure. I really want to hunt down like the cool used Infinities, like the FX. What is the FX 56? The V8 one, and there's the FX 35 that had the 350Z motor. I think, like, they're probably so rare, but all that stuff I desperately want to review, and it's so hard to find. But I'm hoping to someday get them, because I remember those looked so cool back in the day. That was back when like Infinity was really like standing out, and I think a little more than they are these days, and was really just so cool with these cool combos they had. Cool engines, wild styling, and like rear-wheel drive SUVs and all this other stuff. That most people didn't have in that segment. It was really cool. Anyway, let me see here. So gaming says maybe try rebranding to Super X Fan. Might switch up the algorithm. I mean, honestly, at this point, it would burn all the bridges with all of the car companies. They wouldn't want me to be doing stuff if I had Super Fan in my name. And also, it's hard to say, but I'm not much of a Subaru Deluxe fan anymore. So it's also just not an accurate representation. I don't love the way they've done the new Deluxe, and especially now, it's not really their fault, but with the tariffs, they've just increased prices, and now a base WX is $39,000. There was a case to be made when it was 30, even under 35. Okay, fine. But now at 40 grand, like, I guess if you want a big back seat or you don't like the GR Corolla for some reason, but I'm sorry, like, now there's no reason to not go for GR Corolla or Golf R even. I mean, Golf R, yes, it's more expensive, but it's such a nicer car, way more power, way more, advanced stuff with the active rear diff in the back and stuff. Just, and I mean, maybe they'll all raise their prices as well, but I mean, GR Corolla, as of right now, no price increase. You still get it for 40 grand, and yeah, that's definitely, now there's no contest in my mind. Absolutely no case to be made for Derex, unless you get a huge discount at the dealer level that you can't get on the GR Corolla. But I mean, those aren't super hot anymore either, so I feel like there's probably deals to be had on GR Corollas too these days. But anyway, yeah, I couldn't go back. If it'd be like a fun nostalgia play to maybe do a new channel as Super X Fan and just have it like as a personal kind of channel or something like that. But again, it just wouldn't represent who I am, and I'd just be disappointing anyone who found my channel being like, oh, this guy likes WRXs, and then I'd be like roasting WRX in every video. People like, oh, screw this guy, like he actually hates them. So I just feel like it's something best left to history and leaving it in the past. But I do have fond memories, I'm sure, of rambling off that intro, all the time. And Xavier, thank you so much for a very generous super chat here. He says, hi, Matt, glad you're still around. Thank you so much for your support. That all helps me to stick around as well. But yeah, it's I still have a huge passion for car reviews, and I'm really hoping that does grow the channel. Because that's something I didn't really talk about too much in the final weekly update there. But I think simplifying my channel for the algorithm, I think, will really help it. You look at, why doesn't anyone else do weekly news stuff? Because I think it actually might have hurt the channel. It's the algorithm on YouTube is very much needing a clear direction of who is this channel for. And this is why, channels that are specific about the niche, like if we're talking, a channel that does only Mopar news, or a channel that only talks about one thing or the other. And honestly, even my channel, whenever all I was doing was talking BRZ stuff, blew up. It's easy. It's like, okay, we know all these people like this car. You push the video to them, they're going to watch it, and it's very simple and straightforward. And any of these other channels, again, that focus on one thing or one very specific type of thing, easy blow up, because it's like, okay, this dude mods Corvettes. As long as he keeps modding Corvettes, no one's gonna be disappointed. And it's always gonna keep just growing and growing organically. Versus, whenever I pivoted to just doing more of a variety of stuff and trying to have something for everyone, I think that's partially what hurt the channel. But I think the weekly update is also doing that as well. So again, just refocusing the channel, honing in, and honestly trying to even get a little more picky again with the reviews that I do, but really focusing on who is my audience, who am I actually making videos for, and not only like who is my audience, but who do I want to be my audience? And like, I have to pick sides. If I really want to really focus in, it's like, do I just do enthusiast stuff and completely say, I'm not doing anything boring ever again? Or do I do something for everyone and still try? And so I'm going to try and take baby steps here and see, again, dropping the weekly updates, if that helps the algorithm enough to make a difference. If it doesn't, maybe I do just do only used stuff, or I, do only sporty stuff, or, try and niche down more, because being everything to everyone clearly just isn't working. So I'm going to keep on fighting like hell here to stick around and stay relevant and and make videos that hopefully you guys want to watch. But it's definitely, it's a learning process. I'm still just trying my best every day and trying to make the best call I can. But thank you so much for the support there. And confirmation, thank you for a super chat. It says, the Pirates have sucked nearly all my life in my 30s. I'm right there with you. I'll be 35 here in July. And aside from, what was it, 2012 to 2013, the only only exciting years where we actually had a chance, being in the playoffs there. It's not great. So yeah, I never like really watched the games or anything. It's just honestly a shirt I've had from 15 years ago or whatever. But I still do enjoy going to a Pirates game from time to time, even though our owner Bob Nutting is just the absolute worst. He will not spend money and just is holding the team hostage. But what can you do? So anyway, Pirates always have sucked, probably always will suck, but it's a beautiful place to see a baseball game. If you ever are in Pittsburgh, even if you don't care about baseball, it's just a really fun way to spend an evening in the summer here. Thank you again for the super chat confirmation. And let me see, where were we here? Mr. 705 says, I've been here since the BRZ and donated towards the Mustang. I appreciate that. Thank you for that. Yeah, that's now been almost, like 10 and a half years since that whole thing as well. And I know so many people have supported me for so long, and forever grateful for all that. Michelle says, I discovered your channel when it was already at Maran Motoring. Was it in 2017 when you changed the channel name? Yep, 2017. You got it. And that's kind of crazy too to think about. It's been 8 years basically since I've changed it, and it does not feel like it's been that long. It's wild. And Raphael says, okay, talking about Anthony's thing there. And Luke says, I watched your video of a 2016 Volkswagen Jetta SEL Premium and bought one. I watched your video on the 2015 Civic Si and bought that. I sent a video of your 2017 Honda Ridgeline review to my friend's dad, and he got one. That's awesome. Well, I'm so happy that the videos help everyone. That's my goal. And I'm so happy that that has been a success. And I really do, kind of cherish, hearing that, because that's, again, just like exactly what my goal is. And so knowing that I'm doing that, is very rewarding. So thank you for that, Luke. I appreciate that. And let me see here. Sorry I missed the other two super chats here. Ryan, thank you so much for super chat. He says, you were the second channel I subscribed to when I first got on YouTube 11 years ago. I remember watching your videos at high school because I didn't have internet at home. Hopefully things get better. I appreciate that. That's crazy though. You're able to at least watch them at school there. And that's so wild. So thanks for the support all these years. It's wild, and I'm so appreciative to all of you who supported all these years. And confirmation, thank you so much for a super chat as well. It says, time for my weekly VB rant. Price increase, but no horsepower increase. F the Scar, F Subaru. The TS costs more than a Civic Type R JFC. I'm right there with you. You will not hear any kind of opposition from me. That's another one, Type R. I mean, obviously you don't have all-wheel drive there, but yeah, Type R is such a better car. And it's so funny. I mean, I know, again, it's PR speak. They gotta do it. But like Subaru especially, they said in their press release, like, we raise prices while still like maintaining exceptional value. And it's like, don't try and sugarcoat this. Like, just call a spade a spade. It's a crappy situation, and you don't want to lose your tail on margins for profits. understandably so. Do not blame them at all, but just say it's because of tariffs. This sucks, and just leave it. Like I know they can't say that, especially these days, because the way Trump lashes out at anyone that says anything against him. But I hate the whole it's still a good value. It's like, well, maybe if everything also goes up by the same price, you can make that argument. But for right now, you can't make that argument. So don't make it. It's not a good value because everyone else hasn't raised their prices in that sports car segment. So yours is not the best value right now. Incorrect. Try again. So I'm right there with you, confirmation. And again, it's not Subaru's fault, but we'll see. It's just the way they timed it is unfortunate because right now it just looks like they're raising prices and a lot of these other companies aren't. And TFI has also open diff with that. Yeah. This is why I said it's hard to be a Super fan anymore. I know a lot of people really love modding the hell out of them and going crazy, and that's great. But stock versus stock, at least, just not good. Confirmation continues. I'm excited. He says the audacity that they claim these prices are competitive considering the product is wild. Well, that too. I mean, that could have been said before the tariffs, but yeah, especially now, not the case. And yeah. I mean, you already heard my review. I'm not gonna, you probably saw the TS review and the TR review. Yeah, I've been saying for the past year and a half or whatever, these things are too expensive. Don't buy it. Buy literally anything else that it competes with. But yeah, I don't know. It is mystifying for sure. And let me see. Sorry, my phone's blowing up here with other stuff. But let me see. So. And TFI says, yeah, no internet in 2014 for Ryan. That's got to be rough. Yeah, that is definitely got to be rough. But that's awesome. You're able to at least get the entertainment there at school. And yeah, that's one of the great things about school is giving people those opportunities too. And let me see. So where were we here? Let me see. I'm going to get a drink while I find my spot here. Kraken, thanks for stopping by. And let me see. So we are a little bit behind. So we're going to be a little more picky with the questions here and make sure we just do member ones primarily. Besh is asking, or Besh Lick is asking, how do you think Ford will do in F1 with our partnership with Red Bull? I have no clue because I don't follow F1 at all. I don't know which team's better, which team's worse. I'm completely out of the loop on it. You'd be better off asking a grandpa or something. It is that's my level of connectedness, unfortunately. So not able to give you an intelligent answer. I apologize. And King Carbo says, thanks for the answer. Was you thinking you used a mid-sized PHEV SUV with some performance and sportiness? For that, if you're talking mid-sized, I don't know if you mean mid-size 3-row or mid-size 2-row, but I would say Mazda CX-90, CX-70 plug-in hybrid is probably my favorite as far as the larger stuff goes. They're fantastic. I mean, amazing handling, really nice powertrain, good electric range, great styling, great interior. I think, yeah, CX-90 and 70 have it all, especially with the PHEVs there. But even with a 6-cylinder, either way you go, they're fantastic. So that'd probably be my top one in that regard. So thank you for the extra context. That always helps. Kraken says, Kraken had another great showing at my local Deceptive Dreams May Days event. That's a fun name there. He says, she took home third in the Korean category behind the launcher, and that made me go deaf as he popped when he saw Kraken. Nice. That's crazy. That's very loud launcher end. That's already a loud car to start with. So that's impressive. He says, also finally got to meet the guy after seeing him on Instagram a lot. Nice. And let me see. Harsha says, sometimes I feel that Mitsubishi is more talked about Subaru with the Subaru lineup being dull and boring. The Mitsubishi lineup is so bad. People are talking about them making bad cars do have their upsides. Oh, yeah. I guess so. Yeah, with Subaru, there's just not a whole lot to talk about. But the thing about Subaru is, despite all their questionable decisions to everyone that's an enthusiast, I guess, their sales are fantastic. So from a sales standpoint, they're making every right judgment call. They're doing everything right. And again, if you look at it from that context, they've never been better, and who are we to say anything different, because clearly they're laughing all the way to the bank. So I guess happy for them. It's just sad because they were so fun and quirky, and it's just kind of the mellowing of Subaru here for the past decade or two has just been a little bit unfortunate. And let me see. That car guy's running on 10% battery left here after the movie. So we'll see you later, car guy. But thanks for stopping by. TFI says, I'm going to watch the new Mission Impossible movie on Tuesday. Tom Cruise broke his ankle jumping across 2 buildings and finished the shot. Yeah, he is a champ when it comes to doing his own stunts and everything. And yeah, I'd love to see the Mission Impossible movies. He's also super nice. Humble brag, but he filmed Jack Reacher in Pittsburgh, and I actually was able to go down to set and film some behind the scenes videos of him, going in and out of buildings and stuff like that. And he always seemed very nice and really cool. I didn't get up close to him or anything, but he was very nice when he was in Pittsburgh. He was visiting the local places and being friendly with everyone. And that was back when I think it was still Katie, and I think Suri is his daughter's name. They were, going to get milkshakes nearby and all this, other fun stuff. And he seems very, very nice. The Scientology thing's unfortunate, but he seems like a boss in every other way. But let me see here. Scott says, hey man, I've watched all your videos on Alfa Romeo, and I just bought a 2019 Stelvio Quadrifoglio for 30 grand. I feel like this is the best deal you can get on a 500 plus horsepower vehicle today. Thoughts? I didn't realize they had been that cheap. Wow. How many miles are on that? 30 grand for a Quadrifoglio? I did not think they were even close to being that cheap. Holy crap. You either got an insane deal or it's insane miles or something, but wow. Okay, this is new information. 30 grand for a Quadrifoglio, probably, one of the best ways to spend $30,000, I'd say. I'm right there with you. Congrats on getting one. That's awesome. I love, obviously I reviewed the Stelvio Quadrifoglio, and I'm hoping you enjoyed the video. But yeah, they are really, really good. I mean, handling is still just so good. I mean, that's probably, I can't think of a better car that I personally, 30 grand. I mean, obviously there's other stuff, so it comes out, but if you're talking like 500 plus horsepower for 30 grand, I don't think there's everything that I would choose for 30 grand, would be less horsepower. So if you're going for, more horsepower, absolutely. That's definitely going to be one of the best buys. I mean, you could argue, you can get a Durango SRT or something probably these days for about that kind of money too. Although that's not quite 500 horsepower and obviously just not even close as far as handling and dynamicism. The Quadrifoglio is going to run circles around it. So that's a very solid buy. I did not know they were that cheap. Now I'm after this last year, I'm going to go on Auto Trader and look at Quadrifoglio prices, because if Giulia Quadrifoglio is that price too, then I'm going to have to add that to my potential list of cars to buy someday if I ever have money. That's that's impressive. Thanks for sharing. Michelle says, I'm glad Lexus is scaling back the spindle a bit. I like how the TX grill looks with the color matched bits. Gives it a unique look with ours being white. Nice. Yeah, I think that the way they've evolved it is certainly a lot more. Maybe it's just the passing of time too, that it's less of a shock, but I think, it looks really good these days on most Lexuses. I mean, LC500, come on, that has that grille, and one of the best looking cars ever, I think, in my opinion. So I think it's one of those things that does also just take some time, I think, for people to acclimate to. And Raphael says, I'm just old. I don't like shorts. They're not long enough to be worth watching. I mean, I don't watch them either, so I'm right there with you. So every once in a while, like Beth will send me a funny reel that she finds on Instagram or something, but I do not make it a point to watch short form stuff, because for me it's just I'm right there with you. I'm not into them, and that also makes it hard to film them, because it's not something I'm passionate about, and even if it's this great hack to building a channel or whatever, that's so hard if you're not passionate about it. And TFI says QX60 should have used the V6 from the Frontier. 310 horsepower will get it closer to the Lincoln Aviator's 400 horsepower EcoBoost. Right. Yeah, that certainly would help. But I mean, 300 horsepower would then put it, right in line with MDX and others. So like that's, yeah. And I mean, the old one had a V6, so I don't know why they downgraded so much to the 2-liter. It's only got like, I think 248 horsepower in the QX60, just not enough for the segment. I mean, I guess clearly, again, if they're selling it, I'm guessing it's just giant discounts and people that just, don't care about having the slowest thing in the segment. But like, yeah, I'm right there with you. I think the V6 would be a better choice, especially these days. Maybe they'll put it back in. We'll see. Let me see. King Cobra has the QX70S, and I love it, but the city MPG on hilly roads hurts. If you could find one with a V8 to review, it's a literal unicorn. Nice. Yeah, I'd love to. Maybe someday. Let me see here. Hunter says, Matt, I was curious your opinions on Volkswagen. I feel like they're missing out big on not having our versions of the Jetta, Tiguan, and Atlas. Also, a hybrid bus would sell better than the fully electric, in my opinion. What do you think? I agree. I think, some of these things are also like, like in Germany, they do have like a Tiguan R. But yeah, I mean, I think doing performance Atlas, maybe a little more debatable, but like for sure we should have a fast Tiguan here. Fast Jetta, there's no reason to not have a Jetta R. I don't know why they've never done that. Is you're right. It seems like it would make sense. Like you have the sedan, you have the hatchback. We see this the GTI and GLI. Like why not for the R as well? So that is definitely low hanging fruit. That I'm not sure what the deal is there. Hybrid bus, would have worked out, but then it wouldn't have looked that way. The packaging is in that crazy funky look is because it's electric. Otherwise, you would have something like the what do they call it? The Eurovan, or what's the one, the Vanagon? I think it was the Eurovan. What was the one they had like the early 2000s? They had a van, and there's also the Rutan. I'm not talking about that, but yeah, they had, that van, but it's front engine, and, it just wasn't quite the same vibe as the Volkswagen bus. So I think, doing it electric, aside from like the other idea of just actually putting the engine in the back again, which, is going to be really hard unless you do some kind of Porsche motor or something. I think the electric thing is the best way to do the bus, and especially the hippie vibe of the bus. To me, I think electric fits. I actually thought that vehicle would sell better than it has. And I don't know. I know, again, it's just poorly timed once again, and the price is, a little higher than some people wanted. But, I mean, I did my review on it, and I talked about the competitor comparison. There's a price premium there, but it's not crazy of a price premium, in my opinion. And especially with, tax credits, and especially with lease deals and stuff. I love the bus. If it fit in my garage, I would be pushing real hard for that to be our next family vehicle, even though we don't need a van. We have literally one kid, but it just would be, it was just so fun to drive. I love the van. I hope that does better in the future. I mean, obviously, yeah, having multiple powertrains would certainly help them to sell better. We see this with Toyota. This is why Toyota's selling fantastically well, because they have gas, hybrid, and plug-in hybrid, and also now some more electrics as well. They got something for everybody, and then you lose no sales, because you got something for everyone. As long as they're into your brand, they'll find something they like. And unfortunately, everyone else just doesn't have the ability to do that. But yeah, I think bus it couldn't exist any other way without compromising on the styling. But I hope Volkswagen finds their way and gets us some better times here soon. And TFI says, pro tip, buy the car that terrorist groups use. If it can survive the Middle East, it can survive mall crawling in the suburbs. That is true. Yeah, there's a lot of those rugged body on frame, Japanese, trucks and SUVs and stuff that are the vehicle of choice, for, all kinds of people. I mean, other parts of the world where you have just, rugged terrain, rough situations, that's, you can't go wrong with that kind of stuff. This is why Land Cruiser is legendary. All these others, not because of the terrorists, they were just being in the Middle East and just having these very durable capabilities of being able to handle the insane heat and all that stuff, all the off-roading. It's yeah. Yeah, it's funny though. Let me see. The V6 guy said my favorite videos you posted were the Mustang series. Yeah. And I see Gladys says I've been here since the Legacy Spec B. That is impressive. And I think I remember your username, Gladys, but yeah, I mean, you got to be one of the oldest. I know there's probably a few others too that remember the Batman videos and all of their stuff from 2010 or 2011. But Spec B stuff, I mean, I was posting about that. Yeah, I mean, I think my first video on that was probably 2009, 2010, maybe. I mean, that's, yeah, you go way back. So thank you so much for all the support all these years, and for not getting sick of me after a decade and a half or more. So thanks so much for continuing to watch. And let me see. V6 guy says, I'd say get yourself some long-term ownership cars and make a long series based on that, and have other car reviews and other types of videos in between. Yeah, that's something I mean, I would like to do. The problem with long-term stuff for me is I don't drive enough. I just, that was easier to do. Like back when I had, the Mustang EcoBoost and like the BRZ and even the Mini, I was still working a job and I had a commute every day. And especially those years I was working part-time at Harrison Auto Sales, which is like 50 minutes away from me. So I was racking up miles a lot. And for long-term testing, that's great. And that's like what you want to do. But now, I mean, like, I'm long-term testing my Fiat 500e. I've had it since the end of February, and it has 625 miles on it. So there's not a whole lot to say there. So that's kind of my problem is I don't drive enough to do a long-term test. I would love to, and I'm jealous of people that have long commutes. Actually, as crazy as that probably sounds, it's like something I desperately wish I had more opportunities to drive. I think, as time goes on, especially with my daughter, doing more stuff, more activities, having more active social life, that's going to be more driving for sure. So it will improve hopefully for me, but it's still just like, you got to drive a lot to do a good long-term test. Like Car and Driver, they have a full staff of people that is constantly driving those cars they do. That's how they put on 30 or 40,000 miles on a car in a year, because the thing never sits. And if I was a medical courier or something where I'm doing 100,000 miles a year, I do every 6 months, I do a new great long-term review on something and say, hey, here's my next car. I'm going to drive 100,000 miles this year and, tell you guys how this holds up. And, that would be huge. It's just, again, I don't have that opportunity and I don't have the time to even drive aimlessly around to, rack up good miles. So that's really the big holdup with that. And so, yeah, it'd be fun to do someday. I mean, there's also the gamble. I could just straight up quit doing everything and then just only do a series on a car, like I did, with the BRZ. Of just like, hey, I'm just like driving this nonstop, and that gives me a bunch of free time then to go driving and just film vlogs of road trips or whatever, and just like drive the wheels off of something. Drive 8 hours a day, every day, try and break it, try and do the most stuff possible with it, and just see. I don't know if that's a viable content strategy, but that's like literally the only other way to do it, at least as far as my current situation. But otherwise, yeah, trust me. I mean, that was the thing with the Bullet. The Bullet, my goal was to put 200,000 miles on it. I wanted to drive it across the country. I wanted to like do all these adventures with it. And it's just like, I was just too busy with car reviews and weekly updates and life and everything else. And just, never got that opportunity. With time is just always my biggest problem. But yeah, I'll keep on finding ways to improve that. If you have any other suggestions, always ears as far as hearing all that. And Gladdy, thank you so much for a super chat. He says, thank you. No, thank you for the support. And thank you so much for the super chat. And John also seconded that. And yeah, I really appreciate everything from everyone. And hope you're doing well, Gladdy, and curious what you've had all these years while you've been watching the channel. If you have had any of the similar cars. So that's another funny thing is so many people like started watching me with the BRZ, bought a BRZ, and like some of these people, they've they drove their BRZ like I did for a while, and then they kind of got tired of it, and then they wanted to get something with more power, so they got a Mustang like I did. And a lot of us, it's like we almost had like a similar path. So I'm kind of curious if that was your experience as well at Gladi, or if you've gone a different way. But yeah, thanks so much again for the support. And let me see. So where were we here? So Gladi also says, do you think German cars are really lease-only vehicles due to reliability and maintenance cost concerns? If you are concerned about costs, yes, I would. If you want to be safe with your money, lease them and dump them. This is why they are very popular, business lease vehicles. They're, and I can't remember the exact percentage, but like a huge amount of German vehicle sales are leases, far more than I think most other brands. They also lease very well, but they've also now designed it that way to lease well, and they kind of know what they need to do and how to get the residuals where they need to be and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, and even when you do lease them, I mean, like Beth, leased her two C300s. I mean, even the yearly oil change, $400. Like it's not cheap. I mean, you can prepay for maintenance and get a little bit of a discount that way. You can, do other things to get around it, but like basically, even the regular scheduled maintenances are expensive. But yeah, my personal policy, just because again, I don't have a high risk tolerance as far as having a car give me issues. Yeah, German vehicles are lease only for me personally. Again, other people might have better luck, and if you know what you're doing and you're able to work on them a little bit, or you have, you don't mind having your dashboard lit up with warning messages or whatever, it's some people that truly isn't that big of a deal to them. And for those people, they can enjoy that stuff and it's completely fine. But for me, just, yeah, that's my own personal policy on those. And let me see, that car guy 6 says, did you see the new 2026 Dodge Charger 4-door? Yeah, so when I did my reveal video of the Charger over a year ago now at this point, they had the 4-door version there. I was one of the first to actually show the 4-door version. I guess a lot of people just didn't make it to that point in the video to see the 4-door one, but I think I actually said in the title, like, this is the 4-door. So the 4-door isn't news. There's nothing new. Maybe they've now finally shown more of the back seat and stuff, because whenever I was filming it, they wouldn't really let me do much with it, but I showed it. And I remember in the video, I was like, this is like super long. This is like longer than an S-Class. Like, it's like a huge car. But yeah, that's been around. It's been over a year for that. And yeah, I'm curious if the 4-door version helps them sell any better. I mean, I'm guessing it'll sell a few more, but it's going to be tough with that launching. Also is EV only to start, and then them bringing the gas stuff on. Although the gas stuff's been delayed too now. They're saying 6-pack I think is coming later this year instead of the summer. So I'm not sure when exactly it's coming, but yeah, that's can't come soon enough because Charger is struggling right now. And General Chicken says, hey, Matt, wanting to pick up a new BRZ G86 before tariff upcharges hits. What trim / spec would you be your pick? Used or new? Thank you for what you do. Thank you for watching. So BRZ has already had the price increase. Maybe you can find a dealer that'll find you one that doesn't have the increase. I'm not sure how they're applying that to cars that are already on the lot, but BRZ already is reflecting, I think it's now base price of about 34 grand. And G86 has an increase. So G86, I think right now is currently the better deal of the two. I also like the way suspension feels in G86 better. Personally, and again, this is my personal preference, but because you asked what my pick would be, my pick of the litter would be a base GR86 on the Michelin Primacy crappy no grip tires, because that's how you have the most back end fun. You have the most oversteer, you have the most playful character. Grip is fun in those cars, and if you do want to go on a track, or you want to just really tear up a back road, you can always upgrade tires. Also, you get a slightly better ride quality in the smaller wheel versus the big wheel. But it's really just, I don't like having grip in those cars. It's for me, all the fun is entirely wrapped in, not having grip. And that's why if you watch my original G86 review, where a lot of it was on track, so I was able to really, drive like an idiot. the most laps I had was the few laps I did in the base one. That one I was cracking up because the thing just desperately wanted to slide around on me. And I mean, still plenty of fun with the cars with the summer tires and all that. But that would be if I was spending my own money on one of those, it would be a base GR86, and it would be the GR86, not the BRZ, because BRZ is a little snappier with the oversteer, a little less progressive. The GR86 is just like it's coming. It's doing it in a very linear fashion, and you're along for the fun ride, and it's great. As far as used versus new, I'm not sure what they're going for on the used market, but last I saw, they weren't much of a discount, and so that's going to come down to the math equation of the difference of used versus new, the difference in interest rate, which is going to be probably a bigger differentiator of used versus new, and also you may, I don't know if it's going to be really changing your insurance rates that much, but they did add in like adaptive cruise, I think, in 2024. And like that gives you like the auto braking a little bit more and some of these other things. So there may be some other safety stuff that might lower insurance rates. I don't know about that, but definitely, make sure you, just kind of run the math on it and see what makes the most sense there. Obviously having a new car is always fun, but I'd happily own a used one too. So I don't think there's anything wrong with having a used one. Just make sure you find one that's had the maintenance done on time, one that doesn't look like it's been, beat to hell and back, which usually means try and avoid one that looks like it has evidence of mods or has mods on it already. Because again, I mean, we're all here to enjoy our cars, but you just never know, especially with modded cars, what's been done, how hard has it been driven, has it actually been cared for well or not, so that's kind of the other thing to keep in mind as far as used. But yeah, so hopefully it helps you a little bit. Let me know if you have any follow-up questions, but yeah, definitely get one as soon as you possibly can, because it doesn't seem like that situation is getting any better. And honestly, again, if sales get hit enough, because again, BRZ already went up, if sales drop enough, I'm worried that car is going to just drop off the market completely. So, that'd be really hard to find them, and then they'd be sky high prices. So yeah, I wouldn't delay, for sure, once you figure out what you want. But yeah, best of luck hunting one down, and yeah, it's GR86 is so much fun. And let me see. Austin says, Matt, you should definitely pivot to performance cars, preferably ICE. That was your bread and butter when the channel started. You should also do some road trip videos. So road trip, I'm curious what kind of road trip stuff you guys would like to see, as far as whether you want me to go to like interesting places and kind of just vlog like cool stuff I see, or if it's really focused on like amazing roads and the car more so, because there's various ways to do like road trip videos. So I'm kind of curious, exactly what you are thinking whenever you say road trip, because a few others suggested that as well, and I love road trips, so that is absolutely something I'd be more than happy to do, especially if it's like shorter stuff where I'm not having to leave the family for a long period of time. But yeah, I'm open to that. As far as performance stuff, yeah, the only thing about performance stuff, and I think this is kind of part of why I pivoted, was you reach a limit with performance cars, and it gets to a point where I'm either rehashing all the old stuff eventually, which is fine, because I've said that could be a fun thing to do too, but that does end. There is a limit to that, and I could always do another one that's been modded slightly differently or whatever. But that also gets harder and harder to do as well, because, I film everything that I can around here as far as like the used dealerships that have some of this stuff, because a lot of these things are pretty rare. Thankfully, I do have so many of you that have offered me your own cars to drive over, the 10 years here that I've been, doing those kinds of reviews. And that's something that, I have a whole list still that's, on my phone here. Anytime I go anywhere, like I have, cars waiting for me in basically every corner of America, to review if I have the time and the ability to. But eventually, once I work my way out of Pittsburgh and into the surrounding states, it gets to a point where like I got a bunch of really cool stuff that's offered to me in Seattle or in San Francisco or in Quebec or like all these other. I mean, I can go all over the world, like. But that gets expensive. And so, that's kind of why like this kind of reaches a natural limiter where it's like, okay, I've done everything I can at dealerships. I've done everything that's within a reasonable driving distance or a reasonable trip. Um, and then from that point on, it becomes a real gamble of like, okay, am I going to fly to the other side of the country to do these few cars and hope that they cover my plane ticket and maybe manage to make me a profit as well? Because that's, again, I'm doing this as a business. So that's kind of, that's why there's a limit there, which is why I think for sustainability, I pivoted to doing other stuff because, there's only so many performance cars I can do. Obviously, there's a lot of, channels that do seem to have a seemingly endless supply of cool stuff to always review. But as far as, the performance stuff that's actually affordable, I think that's the limit. There's always another exotic you can review. And that's kind of a never ending thing, as we see with Doug and others. But as far as, there's only so many 350Zs, there's only so many 370s before it just gets tired. And I think you're kind of seeing this with some of the other people that have reviewed stuff over the years, where they have to start to go out of the box and, they still have no shortage of cars to review, but it's, again, another Evo, it's another WRX, it's, crazy things that you can get your hands on, but it's, it's challenging. And this is why, like, you're seeing, like that dude in blue doing these topical videos as well. He still does car reviews, but he's also mixing in other stuff because you got to have some other things to keep the channel going and not just those cars. So that's really the balancing act, and that's one of the things that I'm gonna try and figure out here going forward. Do I drop family vehicles? Do I drop trucks? I think that would be the easier thing for me to drop first, is trucks. But I know some enthusiasts do like trucks, and there's a little bit of overlap there. So, but like, I'm not a truck guy. I've never been a truck guy. I'm not into trucks. I don't enjoy reviewing trucks. I mean, they're fun. I've, jumped, Forerunners and Tacomas and all that stuff. Like, it's fun. It's not that I, have anything against them. It's just like, it's not what I'm passionate about. So if I'm just doing stuff I'm passionate about, like, quit doing trucks. Like, that's an easy thing. But like, then you look back at my reviews and like, what did well for me? If you look back, literally back to back, I did a Cummins 2500 Ram heavy duty and a Mini Cooper S, the new Mini Cooper S. You'd say, okay, everyone on your channel loves enthusiast stuff. Review the Mini Cooper. That's going to be the one that's going to do well. Mini got like a third of the views of the Cummins. So, there's those types of things where like, views are, what I live and die off of. So like, at the end of the day, like, I need to go after views. And so this is why I've gone to some of the, softer stuff that does get better views sometimes, because if I chase the minis and other things like that I think, you guys will watch, most people don't, so it's always a guessing game. And, a lot of times it makes no sense. It's the algorithm, it's a bunch of other things too. But I think, again, I'm trying. I think really the big niche that I want to exploit more is used car stuff, because there's very few people doing that. And my channel really thrived when I didn't have competition. that's the thing. So I need to find where there's no competition, or where there's very little competition, or weak competition, and find those niches and go heavy into that. And I think right now used is really one giant opportunity, combined with the fact that tariffs will make that more relevant as well here, as those continue to make things worse and worse for everyone. So that's really where I think I see things going. And certainly that'll be a lot of used performance stuff, but also other used stuff that maybe I didn't review when it was new 5 or 10 years ago, going back and revisiting some of those things as well, I think also could be beneficial. But I mean, I always try and do performance stuff as much as I can, because I know that's where a lot of you guys, came from, and what you still enjoy. You like seeing that reaction that I have and stuff. So I want to make sure I still do as much of that as possible. But again, it's always kind of, I think, going to have to be a mix and kind of a guessing game, throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. But let me see here. Raphael says, you and Joe Rady convinced me to get my Camry, so your videos do help people. I've been happy ever since. I'm very happy to hear that. And I'm so glad that Camry TRD has treated you so well, Raphael. Let me see. SM says, what do I think about the Pathfinder, especially the V6 and the 9-speed ZF? 9-speed ZF has been problematic. It's been problematic in the Honda Pilot as well and other things. 9-speed ZF is not a great transmission, unfortunately. I mean, some people can probably get away with it just fine, and it's not the worst thing out there, but certainly not, fantastic transmission in my book. V6 is probably fine. I've actually never driven that generation Pathfinder, so I have no clue. I just know how ZF9 speed acts and all the other Nissans and other vehicles that have it. And the Nissan V6 is totally fine. So, if the deal is right for Pathfinder, it could make sense. Again, it just comes down to if it is an actual value or not, and what your priorities are. Kraken says, I'll have to tag you in the reel going up this morning with me and him. Nice. I'll have to check it out. And Decepticon says, yo, Matt and Maran in the house tonight. Thanks for stopping by, Decepticon. Let me see. So where were we here? Sorry, just reloaded here. Harsha says, what's one car that you reviewed and drove and felt like a rental car, and one that you couldn't recommend someone to seriously purchase? As far as feeling like a rental car, I mean, I think Corollas always feel like rental cars, so that's, but no, I mean, as far as a car I couldn't recommend to someone to seriously purchase, I'm trying to think. I mean, I guess there's like Fisker Ocean. I wouldn't recommend to anybody, but I haven't reviewed that. But as far as stuff I've actually reviewed, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I don't think there's a single car where, this is the thing with reviews, and this is why, like, again, the scores, the ratings, all this stuff is so unhelpful to me, because it's just what that one reviewer thinks about that thing, and it's completely subjective and stupid. But anyway, that kind of goes to why I don't do ratings and stuff like that, because there is a car for everyone, and you might think this is the worst thing ever, or I might think this is the worst thing ever, but other people love it. I might think the Mitsubishi Mirage is the biggest, waste of automotive space ever, and like, why would anyone buy one? But TFI, I believe, has one and loves his. I've heard many people that are happy with them, that love them. And, so this is why it's very important to, just recognize as a reviewer that everyone has different needs and wants and preferences and cares, or lack thereof. And so there's a car for everyone, and this is why cars stick around. I think the cars that truly are for no one go away. They get discontinued. They are complete sales flops. But even some sales flops I think didn't deserve to be sales flops. I think, case in point, Charger Daytona RT. Obviously, the Scat Pack sticking around. That's the fast one that everyone wants, or not everyone, but more people want than the RT. But the RT was great. I reviewed the RT on the launch program. And it was really fun. I thought it was great. I was like, do you even need the Scat Pack? Because the RT is really a nice vehicle. And, if the lease deals were fantastic on them back whenever I was shopping for the Fiat back in February, and if insurance rates weren't terrible, I would completely be rocking a Daytona RT right now. I think it's great. But that car is, being discontinued because no one wants it, and there's 3,500 of them sitting on lots and stuff. But I'm that one person that would have happily had one if the price was right. So, there's always something for everyone. So maybe there is something, but I personally cannot think off the top of my head a single car that I can't find a person for. It's all, again, comes out of the pricing being right. Even cars that are really lackluster, like Chevy Trailblazer, for example, very lackluster, not anywhere near the top of the pack as far as the segment it competes in or anything. But if you can get one dirt cheap, or if you really like Chevys and you just need all-wheel drive, therefore disqualifying with tracks, which is much better, then okay, I can see, someone needs a Trailblazer because they must have a Chevy, they must have all-wheel drive, and they need something that small. That's the perfect car for them. Even though I don't like it, it's the perfect car for them. So that this is why I do not agree with the ratings. And so many people have said I should do ratings and all these things. And I know it might be fun, for some reasons, I guess, but for me, it's just, I'm trying to help people, and a score does not help you. It helps you know what I think about it. That's not what you're going to think about it, or what they're going to think about it. And this channel is not about what I think about the car. It's about giving you the information so you can decide if you like the car. I'll give you my opinion and my thoughts, but to me, it's just kind of an interesting choice to make it all about you with your review of, this is my rating and this is the gospel of what this car is about. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox here. So let me see. Gladys says, will there ever be another Top Gear type show? That show was so influential in the automotive world. I know. I was actually having a lengthy discussion this week with another reviewer about, how we'd all love to do like a Top Gear style thing. That's what we all kind of grew up watching and wanting to do and aspiring to do. And how, Top Gear America has so badly missed the mark when they could have done it so easily. And I think, stuff like Car Trek has, been a nice kind of knockoff Top Gear in some ways. And there's been some that I think have been more successful than others because everyone's again tried this in one way or another. But I'd love to see that. I don't know if we'll ever see another thing like that, broadcast style. I think if you're going to ever see something like that, you're going to see it from Haggerty because they have more money than God and they can, just just blow Top Gear levels of money to do Top Gear level crazy stuff. So I have no clue if Haggerty's ever going to do that, but imagine, Jason Camisa and two other funny people, on Haggerty doing crazy stuff, call it whatever, but basically having it be Top Gear. I think absolutely that could be a success, especially if you got the budget. Because that was the thing with Top Gear. Like, and this is, I think, part of the problem with like Car Trek and things like that is like, it's great. It's a great premise, and you can have your beaters, and it's hilarious to watch your car fall apart or whatever. And that is really all that Top Gear did in a lot of ways. But they also did a lot of high budget stuff, and the high budget stuff is very hard, obviously, to replicate unless you got very deep pockets. And I mean, even the biggest car YouTubers can't pull off something that crazy usually. So I think that's why. You're gonna have to wait for Haggerty to do it. Honestly, they're probably the only ones to do it outside of actual Top Gear. Because also TV's dying, broadcast is dying, and even the streaming services are struggling. Trying to put up that kind of money. I think Top Gear really kind of existed in this very perfect pocket of time where you could have these insane budgets. The cars were really firing on all cylinders as far as the amount of enthusiast stuff that was out there. Cars weren't politicized yet. It was this nice, thing that kind of joined everyone together. It was this unifying thing that I think these days it's not as much as it used to be. And so it really kind of exists in this perfect time period. And I think for that reason, you will never replicate it to the same extent. Again, Haggerty could get close, but again, you're still going to have people that are sour about like, oh, well, they used an EV or they didn't use an EV or, whatever. It's just unfortunately, like with so many other things, it's been so overcomplicated, so just crappy and crapified, just with the way culture has evolved in the past 10 years since Top Gear went away. And so I think that's why even, we saw, Jeremy Clarkson, saying like he doesn't like new cars. He thinks all new cars suck too. And he's, just completely down on it. And that's why he's not going to do car reviews. And this is why he's, not interested in anything anymore. And they just did the little adventures. And even that got, just to a point where they couldn't do that anymore. But it's just like, yeah, I don't think you're ever going to see that again, to that scale and that level of brilliance. And also the team they had, amazing producers, amazing crew, those types of things too, are very, very hard to pull off. Filming cars in the North Pole, like very hard to do, So I mean, it's going to be hard to ever even hold a candle to it, I think. B. Mitchell says TikTok's where intelligence goes to die. Yeah, I don't disagree. Michelle says, worst rental car experience, either yours personally or as a kid with your family. Mine was a PT Cruiser back in 2008. Even as an 8-year-old, I hated the car at the time. I'm trying to think. Worst rental car experience. I can't think of a terrible one, honestly. Excuse me. The only thing I can think of is, whenever I, as a kid, went on a vacation to San Francisco, this was in 2002, we had a rental Dodge Stratus. And as a kid, I really hated that as a sightseeing car because it had such a high back seat and I wasn't a big kid, that I had to constantly like push myself up on the seat back to like try and look over like the rear shelf to like see stuff and everything. Cause I mean, I was like at that point I was 12 years old, but just still wasn't super tall or whatever. So I just remember like I had like rug burn on my elbow from like digging my elbow into the upholstery on the stress, like try and like push myself up and like look over the back and like look around and stuff. Because it just had very small windows and I just didn't love that. So that's the only rental car experience I can think of that was actually bad. There might be others, but otherwise I've had pretty good luck with rental cars. I'm curious if you guys had any terrible experiences, but I can't think of any others. It's a fun question though. If anyone else wants to chime in, by all means. And let me see here. Nicholas says, "Hey Matt, did you get to drive the Yuzu 86? What a great color!" I did do just one lap in it in the at the Toyota thing here this past week. Didn't do a video on it because it's it's still just the same GR86. The exhaust sounds nice for sure, but I believe even that's just an off the shelf kind of TRD or GR kind of exhaust or whatever. But yeah, that's great. The yellow looks great in person. The body kit, the aero kit that again is available before, but that on there looks really good. And yeah, I still love G86 and taking it around track. It's been a little while since I was on track in it, so I didn't have time to do as much track driving as I wanted. I kind of was like, all right, I did one lap in that. I did one lap in a final edition Supra, just for one last little hurrah on that in case I don't get a Supra as a press car here, as it's on its way out. So I did one lap in that. Again, it's nothing new. It's, all the same. So it's just a different sticker package or whatever. But that was fun. Did one lap in that. Did a lap in a GR Corolla, and then did the hot lap ride along in the GRMN. Which was an amazing experience. Just the honor of riding with, an epic race car driver like that is really, really cool. Yeah, this is fun though. Raphael says the Volkswagen Buzz is too expensive, but I love it. My family had the original bus and it really takes me back. Nice. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, they are hugely discounted. If anyone wants one, I mean, I've been seeing they're like 10 grand off. And lease deals, I'm sure, are probably really good too. So, don't get discouraged by the MSRP, especially these days with EVs and leases. They're all leasing super well. So definitely, do a little bit of, research into the discounts near you if you are interested in that or anything else for that matter. And Harsha says electric K cars could be a good investment in the future, especially with bikes and scooters increasing in popularity. People would be more interested in cars and vehicles in general if they were. Yeah. Electric K cars, I'm not sure. I think there is some of that in Japan. I don't know much about current K cars that are offered there and what they do, but I think there are a few electric ones. Because there's actually some electric ones even, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago, they started slowly doing that a little bit. Yeah. It just comes down to where you're at in the country, I think, because obviously wouldn't work in a lot of places, unfortunately, still. And John says, I just want to stop in and say that I genuinely love you all from the bottom of my heart. Well, thank you so much, John, for stopping by. Really appreciate the love. And yeah, thanks for all the support. And let me see. Austin says, Buzz need a 300-mile range minimum. Anything less doesn't cut it for a family hauler. It comes down to, I think the real problem is that the bus used to be a road tripper for a lot of people. And for road tripping, family hauling, I agree. People would want more range. I mean, I've road tripped, our Mach-E with 220 miles of range. It's fine if you're a planner. I think it's really overblown. I really think like the mileage anxiety stuff is, something that is an easy talking point for like anti-EV people, but like, in practice, it's really not that bad unless, you road trip where you do 30-second bathroom breaks and you're peeing in bottles and you're, sprinting everywhere and you're eating in your car exclusively and you're completely stressed and like chain smoking cigarettes all the time. You're like, just driving crazy. Like if that's your road tripping style, by all means, an EV is not going to work. But like, if you plan your stops and you aren't going at a breakneck speed, as far as, stopping places, it's fine. And I promise you it's fine. It's really not that bad. So, I mean, in 300 miles, no one drives that in a day, usually, even if you are a family hauler. So, we're talking about Volkswagen bus owners, if they needed to drive more than 300 miles a day, would be a road trip. But then, like anything else, how far do you truly drive on a road trip before you finally just say, you know what, I'm getting on a plane and not road trip? This is why I feel like a lot of these things are overblown. There are certainly people that do only drive and they never fly and they want to, drive across the country every year. By all means, again, it's not for them. But I think the large majority of people, it's actually completely fine for already. And that, again, will continue to improve. We're already seeing evolutions of the Volkswagen platform. So I think we'll get, better battery tech and better range in the ID Buzz for its refresh, whenever that comes in a couple of years. But I have no complaints with Buzz. I think it's great the way it is. Faster recharge time would be nice. Maybe we'll see that in the future. But I loved it. I think it's great. And yeah, you can always get, I think there's the with the rear wheel drive version, I think it's a little bit better range there, and it does get, I think, somewhat closer to 300 miles. I don't remember the exact range off the top of my head, but anyway, Rich says those three guys were the reason Top Gear was so special. It's going to take people that work together really well and can bounce off each other organically, in my opinion. Not to mention, the huge budget. Yeah, definitely. It's they had lightning in a bottle for sure. And Austin says such a boneheaded move to launch the EV before the gas charger. Again, I think that's another example of product cycles just lagging. This is why we can't react to stuff super fast. 3 years ago, their decision, while controversial, if we were dealing with 2022 levels of EV hype and administration and all this other stuff, I think it would have been fine. You would have had some pushback and some resistance. It wouldn't have sold as well as the old one, for sure, but I think it would have gone over better. And I think that, again, it's just, now they're trying to fix everything and switch it around, get the gas thing going as fast as possible. But again, this is why it's so hard to cater a product cycle and a product plan to the current environment, the current culture, the current administration, whatever, because it's just it moves too slowly. It's too big of a ship to turn. We're not auto crossing in a cruise ship here. You can't do it. It's just you gotta make sure you're capitalizing on the long-term trend. What are you seeing long-term? And regardless of what the little waves are short-term, you can't adapt fast enough. That's the problem with car development. You just can't do it fast enough to capitalize on whatever everyone's feeling this year. So that's I think the biggest problem with that. Sure, if you would have told them in 2022 the way things were going to be this year, absolutely they would have done the gas one first. So that to me, that's just, they were trapped. That's not that they were like, this is going to be great, and they walked into 2025 thinking this is going to be great. They knew it was going to be bad walking into 2025, but they didn't know that whenever this thing was already set in motion. That's just, the biggest problem there. And that's why I think a lot of people do unfairly, grill some of these car companies for some of this stuff, because it's just, again, these supply chains take years to build up. This stuff takes so much time. And, it's not just like they woke up and said, hey, I'm going to build this tomorrow and put it on the market at the end of the week. And there's a lot of time and, a very long train that you cannot stop on a dime. And anyway, Raphael says a road trip where you pick a destination and talk about how the car feels along the way is what he's thinking as far as road trip stuff. Okay. So more so about just the drive there and less about, along the way, if you're talking about just destination minded versus stuff along the way. I needed some more noodling on this, but I'm curious what others are saying here. So Jared says, on the road trip note, could try and mirror the Mike/Gina model. People seem to enjoy getting behind the scenes with Beth involved. I didn't know that Mike and Gina did stuff. I don't really watch too much anymore, but okay, well, yeah, I'll have to look into that. The only thing about doing family stuff is the fact that we don't have our daughter online. So that would just be kind of hard, and we're not going to monetize her. So, that's just going to be kind of the tricky thing with any kind of family dynamic. So I feel like any road trip stuff I would do would be solo. It'd be fun having Beth along, but it'd be hard for our daughter to be quiet. I wouldn't want to ruin a family road trip with having her not be on camera and having to like work around that and stuff. But that's something we don't want to go down that road of putting her on the internet. So that's the limiting factor there, unfortunately. Austin says driving Route 66 in a cool car, preferably in something vintage and classic. That's something I've always wanted to do. I even wanted to do Route 66 in the Bullet. And so, yeah, maybe that's something someday if I can, get my hands on a classic, even on Turo or something, I could, maybe do something like that. It'll be fun. Yeah, I'd be curious to see how that does these days. Cause I did some classic car reviews a while back. Some of them have done well, but some of the other classics, unless it's a muscle car, like it just seems like people weren't interested in it. Like I did that 57 Ford Ranchero and no one watched that. So maybe if it was on Route 66, they would have, I don't know. But, vintage stuff's been very hard for me to get views on most of the time. But yeah, that'd be something I would personally enjoy for sure. And Austin says most new cars are like reviewing refrigerators on wheels. Hard to bring much passion into that. I mean, I don't know if I agree with that. I really do enjoy so much of the stuff that I drive. Everything is so good these days. But I understand a lot of people, again, if you're an enthusiast, and it's not stuff that's, loud and fast and exciting, it can, be boring to a lot of people. Again, that's why we all have different thoughts. But I truly, I know a lot of people said that with like the weekly update. I saw a lot of comments this past week about being like, cars are just boring these days, and that's why I don't watch. And I just don't share that same opinion. For me, it's just there's still a lot of exciting stuff. I've been excited to follow, all these evolutions. It's so crazy to see how these batteries are evolving so fast. See the cool stuff like the Ioniq 5N. See the creative stuff that before it was always just like, hey, look, this year it gets another 15 horsepower, and now we have a new exhaust and a new paint color. And to me, that's less exciting than like, holy crap, we got to try and like come up with a new idea of what a performance car is. Like that's wild. And like, as someone who's covered cars all these years, like there's been to me more interesting stuff from a reviewer standpoint than there was before. It might not be what you like, but it's to me as a reviewer, it's been more exciting than just woohoo, that was fun. Getting a new car, woohoo, that was fun. Next one. Like that's very shallow to me versus really digging into like what the Ioniq 5N does and how they do things and all these different modes and all these different things to talk about and discuss and review and try out. Like to me, that's a lot more to sink my teeth into. But yeah, again, I can understand the simple fun joys of just of loud acceleration and not much else too. But let me see. Jared says, any project car aspirations that could transition into a road trip or something? No, project cars, I don't have the time, the money, or the patience for. I never have enjoyed working on a car. And I know that's crazy for a lot of car people to hear, but I don't enjoy wrenching. So project car is just like 3 strikes are out for me. I'm not into it. And I don't have the time or the money for it either. There's things where like it would be fun to put stuff together from like if I could have a shop build me a crazy Subaru Baja, like yeah, that'd be fun, and stop by every few days and say, hey, look, they put the turbo on today or whatever. And but like I'm not into the mod scene anymore. So like the only other project car angle for me would be like restoring a classic. But even that would be boring because everyone would want to see me drop in a supercharged crate engine and all kinds of other stuff that I'm not excited about. For me, like classic cars, I like them being time capsules, which means original or very much faithful to the original. But so that wouldn't be exciting for anyone either. So unfortunately, these are things where it's like there's a lot of good ideas and like I know how to game the system if I wanted to. It's just like stuff that it wouldn't be me, and I would not enjoy it. And that's for better or for worse, that's kind of the limiting factor for me with a lot of these things is just like trying to do stuff I actually enjoy. I wouldn't enjoy making a lot of the content that you guys see on YouTube in the car space. I wouldn't enjoy it. I would hate my life if I had to be sitting under a car every day, just getting pissed off because this bolt's not budging or whatever. Like that would just not be fun for me. So like, that's why I'm just like, I like driving them. Road tripping them would be fun, doing some other stuff, but like, yeah, project cars has always been just something I haven't been into. Rich says, what are your thoughts on recording in 4K? Certainly open to it. It seems like people don't care that much. There's a few people that really care, but then like the large majority of people don't. As TV continues to be more and more of a primary view source, I will go to 4K someday. It's just a matter of when, because that's going to cost a lot of equipment upgrades for me to do that transition. Because like my one camera that I did the weekly updates in, that does 4K, but that's the only, I have one other one that does 4K, but for everything to be 4K, it would require me buying some new stuff. I don't know if it's worth the investment. If I ever have a strong conviction that it is worth the investment, then I will make that investment. But especially right now, just kind of fighting to survive here, just not an investment I can justify making currently. And Austin says Doug took that personally. I'm sure Doug barely even knows who I am. Two Track Jack says, does anyone make a non-problematic 8-speed or higher front-wheel drive based transmission? I don't know. I think there was an 8-speed in the Ford Fusion that seems like it was totally fine. But I don't honestly know too much. But yeah, that 8-speed that was like Ford and GM, I think, worked on it together seemed fine. As far as your specific criteria of, usually you don't go up that many gears. That's just, everyone just sticks to 6 or so. I think once you get to the newer stuff, it's just mostly CVTs. And like Moz is a 6-speed. Everything else is like ZF 8-speed. I don't know. I can't think of any others. I mean, I guess you could argue the ZF 8-speed, it is able to be used in front-wheel drive based applications like the Audis that have them and stuff. So there's some of those. So I guess I could say that possibly the ZF 8-speed maybe. I wish I had a better answer for you, Jack. Sorry. And I see we are actually over almost 10 minutes here over time. So let me do the last few comments here, and then we'll head on out. But Michelle says, I saw a new Model Y still with the temp tag, and someone already put a sticker on it that said, I love my Tesla, but hate Elon Musk. That's definitely a common sticker these days. And B. Mitchell says, as a policyholder, I certainly hope Haggerty doesn't toss a bunch of money at doing Top Gear knock off. I pay more than enough for premiums the way it is. I don't know how much I'm at liberty to say, but Haggerty has a lot of money to burn. So, I don't know if it would hurt your premiums necessarily. I think it's just that they are in a very comfortable place. So they have a little bit they can skim off the top there. Austin says, Jeremy is too old now and not in the best health. Hammond just reviewed the S650 Mustang and loved it. Nice. I didn't see that. I'll have to check that out. Thanks for the heads up. Dom says, we were talking about the Challenger. There's too many trims. Any suggestions? Have you compared trims in your videos? I don't know. It depends what I'm looking for. Best bang for your buck. So you're talking, the last gen, Challenger, as far as the trims. I haven't done a trim comparison of all the Challengers, but I've reviewed, I think, pretty much most of them at this point. It all comes down to exactly, what you are needing and wanting. They're all great in their own ways, honestly. Even a V6 Challenger, gives you the comfort, gives you the style. It's a great daily driver. I did the GT version, which is the all-wheel drive V6. Still a fun car. V8s obviously are fun. The supercharged ones are extra fun. They're all good, really. So I don't think there's a bad trim in the bunch necessarily. It just comes down to exactly what you're wanting and needing. Also, make sure you compare insurance rates, because I'm sure once you get up to the faster ones, you're going to have some worse insurance rates too. So definitely keep an eye on that. But if you have any specifics as far as how they feel, again, they're all just really fun in their own ways. It's going to how much power you want, really. But let me see. So I'm going to skip the last few questions here of non-members, really just focus on the regular ones here. Let me see. Fook says, I guess we'll never get Matt score with babies in back row categories. Yeah, not going to happen. And V. Mitchell says, buddy of mine put 240,000 miles on a first year Dodge Stratus, odd duck with a 2-liter and 5-speed. Once rolling, you could shift it like a Kenworth without clutching. Even survived eating the timing belt. Wow, that's crazy. See, Rishi says, I think the bus needs to be an electric range extender like the new Scout. It could happen since they are both part of the Volkswagen group. Yeah, it's just like, where do you put the range extender? I think the Scout's already kind of built it into the platform. I don't know. I guess if you can find a way to sandwich the engine in where some of the battery stuff is, I think it'd still be really hard to package it in there. And B. Mitchell says, as a road trip warrior, my typical trip is 9 hours of windshield time. I will not fly anywhere I can drive in a day. Since I also didn't do that in the winter, I still can't, condone the EVs for that. Yeah, I mean, again, it all comes down to how much you stop, really. That's, the bottom line, I think. But yeah, I agree with you about, anywhere you can drive in a day, not flying, that makes sense. I've been doing a lot more road trips this year myself, especially trying to avoid the airplanes with their current state. And Austin says it's finding reliable charging stations is the problem. You should check out Auto Auction Rebuilds, trying to road trip his EV charger, nothing but issues. See, that is very much hit or miss for sure. I haven't watched that one, so I'm not going to judge that specific video. But a lot of people know how to play that up. They know what's going to get views. They know that a flawless road trip is going to be boring. I'm not saying they're manipulating their experience or that it's not totally authentic, but there's a reason to have a bad experience in an EV on a road trip, and especially if you're filming it, obviously, so you guys got to be careful what you see. Because, for example, there was someone did a winter test in an F-150 Lightning. I can't remember who it was, but like anyone that like was familiar with them and was familiar with EVs knew that this person just did everything wrong. And yes, there's a learning curve, and that is certainly one of the things we need to work on with EVs to make them better, is get rid of some of that learning curve. But I've road tripped our Mach-E, I've road tripped other EVs. I've never had a charging issue. Maybe I'm insanely lucky, and I mean, I haven't done it a zillion times. I've only done it a handful of times, but like, it requires researching your charging stops. I go on PlugShare and I make sure that the charger is well rated, that all the chargers are working, that they're putting out the proper voltage, that people have good experiences there at them. There are ways to cover your bases and make sure you're doing it well. If you are trying to approach it like a normal gas thing and you're just flying by the seat of your pants and you're saying, it's telling me I need to charge. Well, let's just pull off here and hopefully find something. Like, yeah, that's gonna be a crappy experience. And unfortunately, yes, it's not for the carefree driver right now. If you are that type of a driver, by all means, again, stick to gas or, do a hybrid or plug-in hybrid. But you need that gas if you're going to fly by the seat of your pants. But if you plan, it's not that bad. I'm again, maybe other parts of the country are way worse, but I've now done extensive, long highway drives in EVs and like road trips from Pittsburgh to the East Coast to the beach. It's been fine. I've done it through Maryland. That's been fine. I did it through Ohio. That's been fine. I've done it in Texas. That was fine. I did some in California. That was fine. Again, if I'm maybe going, to some of the middle of the country, that's where we're going to have some issues. And again, this is stuff that's also being improved. Walmart just announced they're doing thousands of new chargers and stuff. And they're doing that without any incentives from the government or anything. They're just doing it because they know they can make money off of it. So sorry, I get a little triggered by some of these road trip videos because I could do that too. I could show up, I could, take our Mach-E, I could go out and say, oh my God, I got stuck. What am I going to do? This is the worst thing ever. And, run around in my underwear on the highway and be freaking out. That would be gold. I could get tons of views, but that's, and that's what people want to see. They want to hear those failures. But it's so easy to fake. It's so easy to fake. And I don't know how many of these people are, but I guarantee you not everything you're seeing is legit. And this is the narrative that, you know, especially enthusiasts want to push, that SEMA wants to push. All these people want to bash EVs. It's very easy to do. It's very easy to say, uh-oh, I have a 0% battery. I'm stranded on the side of the road. You can do that anywhere. You can stage that super easily. The same way I can take my gas car and say, oh no, I don't have any gas. Why is there no gas stations around here? This is the worst thing ever. Like, it's like, well, duh, like you should have stopped for gas. Like, if you just plan your EV stopped, you don't have these issues. Anyway, I will move on, but I see so many stupid videos like that, so many, and it just, oh, I hate it. It's so annoying. Anyway, let me see. So Austin's saying about the Route 66 video, you have to title it right. Almost died on Route 66, then put it in the gravestone and shocked emoji face and thumbnail. Yeah, see, I don't. That's the stuff I don't want to do. I don't want to do garbage clickbait. I know it's the way to do it. And I do not want to sell out. I just do not want to sell out. And honestly, I had a YouTube consultant I talked to for free the other day, and he's like, I can literally blow up your channel. And he gave me all the ways he can do it, and it completely makes sense, and it absolutely is possible. I fully believe him. It just requires me selling out and just becoming, you know, a figurehead for the types of videos that do very well. And sure, it would probably, you know, make me a bunch of money. It would blow up the channel, but it wouldn't be me. It wouldn't be honest, and it'd just be crappy, in my opinion. Again, and other people have followed the same thing of success, and it's worked for them, and they sleep on a bed of money every night, and more power to them. It's just, for me, it's just not what my personality will allow, unfortunately. So anyway, I'm sure I've gone on enough here. I see Rishi says, what are my thoughts on short form content? Don't like it. We talked about that a little bit earlier, Rishi, as well, if you want to hear more thoughts. Zach says, I love the honesty about not wanting to work on project cars. A lot in the YouTube car space seem to feel that if you're not working wrenching, you're not a real car guy, but Matt's like, nah, I hate it. Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm glad you appreciate the honesty. I'm never going to be fake with you guys. It's as real as it gets. And I think that is, you know, rare in a lot of YouTube these days. There's a lot of people that are just faking it, I think. But anyway, TFI says, worst rental experience, early 2010s Mopar cars. Ram trucks are exceptionally comfortable, so they get a pass. Nice. Yeah, early Mopar stuff from the 2010s. Also not a great spot of history for them, I think, with the Nitro and the Avenger and stuff like that. But anyway, Jay, thanks for stopping by. And Michelle says, I watched that video of auto auction rebuilds, Ross tripping the EV charger. He had issues at an EA charger not taking a charge. Another charger he stopped at had notes taped saying they're broken, etc. Right. So all those chargers I would have never stopped at in a car. And I'm telling you, like, I would know, because PlugShare, that kind of stuff is all over PlugShare. Like, this one isn't working, this one's broken, blah, 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 blah. So that proves to me he did not do any research, or he deliberately went to crappy chargers, because I would have never gone to those chargers. And there's enough EA chargers around in basically everywhere in the country. You can go to another one. And even if it means you stop sooner, or you stop one extra time, like, you go to the reliable chargers and you go to the ones that aren't crappy. So that's a very rookie mistake. So at the very least, I will say that they are just in a learning period with an EV and need to desperately do some more research if they're actually trying to be honestly road tripping and not trying to just make clickbait, which it seems like it may be. But anyway, TFI says, oh, and that reminds me, I drove a Wrangler on the highway and it started wallowing in the lane. Luckily, I had no death wobble, but I learned after the fact that JK Wranglers are scary on the highway. Yeah. I mean, honestly, all Wranglers are not good on the highway, in my opinion. The four-door versions got better with a longer wheelbase, but yeah, two-door ones. I mean, even the JL, I was in a two-door JL. I went from took it to the Detroit Auto Show back in 2018. It was a press car, and I took it to Detroit and back. And the winds going even through Ohio. I mean, in the middle of winter, those gusts blowing my little two-door Wrangler all over the road. I mean, that was the JL. So I mean, it's a square, you know, it's only going to be so good. It's just not a good formula for a nice, stable highway cruiser. So, you know, that's the problem with Wranglers. And that is one vehicle I would not be sad if I never drove ever again. I just do not enjoy driving Wranglers. Again, they're fun in their own ways, And for some people, it's the greatest thing ever. Enjoy it. I love it. But, for me, just do not like Wranglers at all. Let me see. So I see John says, thanks for keeping it real. I appreciate those of you who put up with it, as annoying as it may be sometimes. And Rich, I appreciate the respect there. Harsha says, have you seen the whole Jack Doherty McLaren crash? I think I saw the clip. If I don't know who that is, but I think it's the clip I saw of the person who was texting in the middle of a monsoon while they're driving their McLaren and crash. If that's what you're talking about, then yeah, I saw the little crash thing there. Just another eye roll, another day in the influencer YouTube space. Let me see. Andrew's asking about what trim I'd buy for G86. I actually answered that. Someone asked that earlier. Base G86 is the way to go, in my opinion, on the crappy tires. It's the most fun as far as tail happy fun. What do I think about BZR? I think you mean either CHR or BZ. Either way, all the new electric Toyotas seem pretty impressive to me. I talk in my videos about some of the downfalls of them. I don't like the wireless charging pads in them. I don't like the gauge cluster. There's a few things, but otherwise really good. And yeah, John says, Harsha, that's the embodiment of that fakey TikToky narcissistic content farming trash. Absolutely. Michelle says he relied on the car telling him where to stop. Didn't work out very well. He stopped at GM Energy Chargers on the trip back and had good luck with those. Okay, yeah, you never let the car tell you where to go. I think for some Teslas it works out okay for them because again their charging network is very reliable, very well established, very widespread. So if you're in a Tesla, you could let it do that. One of the few perks I'll give Teslas, they do route planning very well. You don't. Yeah, I know that's a nice idea, and maybe someday if we're in a world where every charger works perfectly, but dealing with the realities of 2025, you never let the car tell you where to go. You always plan it ahead of time. There's the website I always use for anyone who's actually trying to do this. If you're unaware, there's a website called A Better Route Planner. That is my go-to source. You punch in your destination. You can filter the chargers, you can figure all that stuff. So then it'll give me the whole itinerary of where I'm going to stop, how long I'm going to stop, what my charge or what my percentage needs to be whenever I start, whenever I get to the charger, whenever I leave, how long I stay there for, what kind of buffer I want to put in. Do I want amenities at this charging stop? Do I want to have bathrooms? Do I want to have restaurants nearby? Do I want to, you can do all that. So then I get that, list of, okay, here's my itinerary. Then I go on my own on PlugShare because it doesn't cross-reference with PlugShare. I go on PlugShare, punch every one of those charging destinations in, and I see, okay, this one has an issue. So then I nix that charging stop on Better Route Planner and then have it recalculate with another one. Then I cross-reference all those and say, okay, is this going to be my best chance of success with all these stops and everything? And then that is my basic rough plan of what I do. And obviously I can improvise there. I do also, along with those stops, I also do research backup stops just in case PlugShare has something pop up that I didn't see, or some new issue that might have actually happened in the past day since I last checked that, because I do check it every day before a road trip. Then I will have some backup stops, or if something happens, or I end up having a battery that drains way faster because of environmental stuff or whatever, I do also have some contingency plans set up. So again, this is me and my planning brain. Probably sounds insane to a lot of other people, but that's if you want to have a good road trip experience in an EV, that's what you have to do. And for me, that isn't a negative. That isn't annoying. I actually enjoy planning. So for me, that's fun. But for a lot of people, again, if you just want to say, go here, and you tell the car to navigate you and just do it by the seat of your pants, it's just, it's not going to be good. That's so predictable, though. I can almost guarantee anyone that does that, you're going to have a bad experience. I can almost guarantee it. And if you have a good experience, it's actually probably luck and not actually because you're not the chances are just not in your favor for the numbers, because it's just, again, it's a broken network right now. And they're not doing the best with keeping that flawless. So anyway, I apologize for the 66 of you that are remaining here as we're going very over time. But anyway, I think we've basically reached the end here. He says Charger EV is a very buggy platform, and it bricked on him shortly after the road trip. The bricking is that's another problem altogether for sure. And that is a new platform. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend getting something that is super new if you have a nervousness about a vehicle breaking down, that's something that, yeah, you're going to want to avoid. Like any first year product of anything, like that's been the, age old advice for, decades, and decades. But yeah, if the car is failing, that's a whole nother problem. But as far as, charging stops, like that is entirely avoidable if you actually want to do the homework, which most people don't want to do. And so that's why they get into these situations. But yeah, so anyway, Jason, what do you think of the new RAV4, like new style or previous generation? I like the new one. I think it's great. There's pros and cons. Again, I'll have to wait till I drive it to see. We talked earlier about maybe there being some glare on the gauge cluster. We'll just have to see how everything plays out. I think the current one is great still. And if the deals are out there on those, that's probably the better buy, because, the new one's probably not going to have too many discounts. Toyota doesn't do much incentives, things like that. So if there's good deals on the current one's great. And the new one's not wildly different, in my opinion. It's the same size, and all that. So I think, the old one would be just fine too. But anyway, that's all my thoughts here for tonight. Apologies for all the rants and tangents here. I see Grant last question says, better beater car, Alpha Giulia or BMW 3 Series? Giulia handles better. 3 Series is probably, the more comfortable and, easier one to live with. Better infotainment in the BMW. So make of that what you will. I'd go Giulia personally, but I know most people would probably go 3 Series. Anyway, yeah, I see Austin says have a great Memorial Day weekend, or Memorial Day, everyone. And I agree. I hope we all have a great Memorial Day. Thank you to all of you who serve this country as well, and for all of those before us that sacrificed so much. Hope we all keep them in mind tomorrow as well, and hope everyone has a great day, a safe and happy and fun Memorial Day. So thank you all so much again for all your support and for everything. And stay tuned. I'll probably try and do a Wednesday live stream here and try that out here this week. It'll be like an hour, just a quicker one, just kind of check in and chat with you guys for a little bit. But anyway, thank you all very much for watching. See you this week here for some more good reviews for sure as well. Take care.